What's it say? Yes. Whose name but the Lord?
Good evening. Our first candidate is Dr. Catherine Koss. I'll say hi. There we go.
Hello.
Good evening.
I say hello.
Nice to meet you.
I have things that I'll just drop off on my way.
Nice to
Corey,
meet you.
nice to meet you.
How do you go?
Hutchin. Mr. President. Good evening.
Please.
Thank you very much.
I'm just going to remind the audience that we have 3 interviews tonight, so I will be repeating the same information a lot. Bear with me. I just want to make sure we get the information to everyone who's listening and everyone in the audience. So good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to welcome Dr. Catherine Koss to our district. I would also like to thank stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. I'll take just a moment to describe our format. We're going to go ahead and start with introductions. We'll start over here with Tom Fryer,
Good evening.
Corey McLaughlin. Shane Foster.
Dan Stone,
Jackie Lancaster.
Ignacio Bajaro Jr. Ron Better.
Nice to meet all of you.
thank you. The initial interview is going to take about an hour. We have 15 questions that we'll ask the candidate. The board may ask follow-up questions if there is clarification needed. After we have finished with our questions, we will give our candidate the opportunity to ask the board questions. We will welcome any closing statement that the candidate would like to offer. Pete Haynes from the Michigan Leadership Institute will help keep us on schedule. Audience members may be most helpful in submitting questions on the forms located near the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions, say that word, specific to each candidate. If the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and as time permits during a second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education as representatives of our community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and our community in the process. While we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each of the candidates. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis for our hiring process. They are printed at the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of each interview. And if we're all ready, we'll start. Everyone good? Okay. As an opener, while the Board of Education has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and in other relevant areas?
Thank you. First of all, I want to express my appreciation for you inviting me to the interview process tonight. I know it is a big commitment, and I feel honored to be here, so thank you. I grew up in Saline, Michigan, and I bring that up because as I drove through your community, it reminded me of home. The farmlands, the small, tight-knit stores and whatnot. So after that, I went to Ann Arbor as I became a math major. I was a varsity athlete and found myself coaching a lot. So it was a natural fit for me to go into teaching. So I was a high school math teacher for 9 years. Never in my life did I think I would become an administrator until a principal said there would be an opening and he thought I would be a good fit. So instead of impacting 125 students each day, I could impact the lives of 625 as an assistant principal. I enjoyed it, so I went and completed my master's, my ed specialist, and my doctoral degree, and I pursued educational leadership. After leaving Farmington as the assistant principal, I had the opportunity to go to Troy Athens High School and became the principal there. I stayed for 6 years. My children were born during that time, and I had triplets, so there were 2 girls and a boy, and it was always fun to bring them into a basketball game because there was lots of hands on deck to help with them. So I was there for 6 years, then moved to Farmington as the assistant superintendent. And at the time, we had 24,000 students and 21 schools. My children were in preschool there through 4th grade when I became the superintendent in Wyandotte, just up the road. Wyandotte, I was there for 9 years. The high school also has a mascot of the Bears. My children graduated from there last year, and it was just a wonderful thing to be able to work and be visible and see all the wonderful things my children were experiencing in Wyandotte. I retired in the spring, and that was to spend the summer with my children and to get them off to college in the fall. My husband started a business 9 years ago called K-12 Media, and it works predominantly with school systems. Right now we have 42 that we work with, and they're a combination of big, they're small, there's rural, suburban, and we promote communications and help them pass things like bond issues, enrollment campaigns, branding. We run social media platforms, and a lot of it is because those districts don't have the capacity to do that themselves. So we've brought over $1 billion to those districts in bonds and sinking funds and enhancement millages. And what I really like about that is we're helping them provide for their students. You know, like they have new facilities, they don't have to worry about boilers. And that's where I get that enjoyment. So when I retired, he was looking at hiring a full-time person, and he had supported me for many, many years, so it was my turn to support him. So in that capacity, I work as the CFO and oversee the accounts receivable, accounts billable, payroll, taxes, and predominantly meet with new district leaders who need help. So that brings us to just after Christmas, and that same passion about wanting to work with children. I had a conversation with my husband and said, I miss the day-to-day contact with children. And after many other conversations, I decided that I would start looking again to be back in the superintendent role. As you know, there's quite a few districts that are looking for superintendents. This is the only one that I've applied to. And I did a lot of research. I did a lot of background checking to see where I might be a good fit. And I really believe my experience, my stick-with-itness, my determination will help move Jefferson forward, and it's something that I really, really would be honored to do.
How do you think various stakeholders, parents, community, staff, and even students should be involved in setting the direction for the school?
That is a wonderful question. And I would say yes to all of the above. What I have learned in my 9 years of superintendency is that students sometimes have different perceptions than adults. So when I was in Farmington, we gave this survey to our elementary students, and I was shocked. One of the questions was, do you like coming to school? And these elementary students, 51% of them said no. And that was such a different experience than I thought. Like I thought they were having fun. They're out at recess. But they weren't. And so had we not asked students, we would not know how they were experiencing our product, if you will. And so when you mentioned students, I thought that was an important group. I know this community to be very loyal to many people who graduate and stay. And I think their experiences of when they grew up are just as important as, you know, the students' experiences. You all represent the community and are aware of perhaps changes in legislation and things like that. So you have an interesting perspective and one that's very necessary. We have teachers, administrators, all together is something that I think needs to provide that direction or have a voice.
Can you please tell us how you will establish yourself as a committed presence in our district?
So visibility is something that's very important to me. In the folders that I passed out is a 90-day plan about how I will operate in those first 90 days. And so there's a strong presence with all of you. Something that I need to get know each of you. I need to get to know you as a whole. I need to also be out and about in our schools to see what wonderful things are happening in classrooms. When I was a superintendent, there wasn't a day that went by that I wasn't in a school. And that was to help me know how the decision-making was impacting our most important learners. So I very much am people-centered, but that also includes being in the community. I've been a member of civic groups such as Rotary. I would meet with faith-based leaders. I would meet with other civic leaders, police, fire, people who have such an important role within the community. So by meeting them, I would establish relationships. For example, with some of the faith-based communities, sometimes families run into hardship and they feel more confident telling a leader in a faith-based organization. And by working with them, we can arrange things like lunches, we can arrange food on the weekend, we can help with clothes that might be necessary, we can help even with transportation. And sometimes people don't feel comfortable coming into a school asking, but their faith-based leader, their pastor, their minister will know. So I found that that's a really neat avenue to support the community. Events, I am very visible in. I love the feel. I love everything from fine arts to sports. Having my children gone away at college affords me the time to do those things. In my past, I have been very visible, very committed, and I would continue to do that here.
We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical district functions?
So I have had the experience of operating in a district that has lots of resources, lots of central office staff. I've also worked in a district that did not have that. So if it's helping with things like the rec report, if it's helping with First Wednesday count, if it's hiring, if it's doing things like Title II reports, I have experience in all of those because I've had to do them or be a part of them because we didn't have large teams to help. So I bring that experience. Special ed is another area where, if you're doing IDEA reports at the end, or even down to things like the AER report that schools are supposed to do. I've been sitting side by side principals and helping them know how to complete those. I've been sitting with other central office staff, helping them complete the reports in a timely manner. And that has helped. It's helped me have a better understanding of what goes into those roles and responsibilities.
Thank you.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs, and how should those challenges be addressed?
So first off, I would make sure that the IDEA money and the at-risk funds were being utilized to their best advantage, meaning we wouldn't want to leave any money on the table that was not intended for student use. Those funds can be used for support people. For example, in the past, I've had supervisors who their main job was to work with the family, the teachers, and the student. So if an IEP was created, the supervisor, who maybe came from at-risk money, would ensure that the student's IEP was passed on to the teacher. There's an IEP at a glance, so teachers are familiar with the deficits as well as what helps that student. And that makes sure there aren't any gaps or loopholes that the student will fall through. If they are noticed, the supervisor position would catch them early so that it wouldn't be a situation of it's the end of the semester and oh my goodness, 4 out of the 6 classes aren't going well. Or a student maybe in 2nd grade isn't struggling to read and it's caught early. The other thing is that we're trying to, or my philosophy is that we want to have the least restrictive environment. So if a parent comes and wants to talk about having their child assessed, looking at a 504 option first in order to perhaps put some things in place and see if that does work for that child and that family. Ultimately, an IEP may be needed, but starting there so that it's the easiest way to get supports right away.
Thank you.
How would you help us to build a more productive, trusting, effective, and communicative relationship with our ISD?
Wow. So I believe it's Stephen McNew, who is the superintendent of the Monroe ISD. And he's known throughout the state because of his, he's been there over 20 years, I believe. And that says a lot about the leadership of the ISD. So being a superintendent, the superintendents meet monthly, and that is a great opportunity to know changes in legislation. For example, the right to work laws changed. And so there was a lot of conversation at the ISD level with superintendents to help prepare what is that going to look like in your district. They're sharing, for example, when I was a superintendent, there was an issue that a community member brought up about a book, a certain book, and should it be in our schools or not. Our board had developed a resource review process. I was able to share that with Dearborn and Hamtramck, who didn't have resources in that area, and so we can help each other when a need presents itself. Because of the relationships built at, within those meetings at the ISD. But I do know that there are meetings for principals, meetings for CFOs, HR directors, special ed, that happen frequently. And so they are getting information that's critical, as well as giving information back about what is it like here? What are the needs of Jefferson? So the ISD can at times help us. So I believe it's utilizing the resources they have, cultivating relationships, and asking for help when needed.
We all understand hindsight is 20/20. Can you share an example when you made a leadership decision that you would do differently today?
So the issue I'm gonna talk about is one I believe that you're aware of. 6 years ago, T-Mobile approached my business manager about putting a tower on a campus because there was a dead zone for T-Mobile. We looked into it. T-Mobile presented us with a contract. True Law, the same law firm you all use, looked at it, gave it their blessing, and it was brought to the board. It was done so over 2 meetings, all per the Open Meetings Act, and at the time, there was no public comment, no pushback, no questions, nobody was knocking on my door. Then COVID hit, and then there were supply chain issues. So in September of 2023, construction started. I notified the families of that campus, and again, heard nothing back. So it was scheduled to be turned on in a couple of months. And a group of concerned community members started to organize themselves and come forward. It dominated our board meetings. It was a horrible division within our community. And there was a lot of time and energy spent because at that point in time, we'd signed a contract with T-Mobile. So we could not go back and void the contract or renege on the contract because that would mean T-Mobile would turn around and sue us. We did studies to prove that it was not harmful to children. We had T-Mobile commit to doing more regular checks to see if anything was going to harm either the staff or the students or the community members who live nearby. And they committed to that. The parent group, however, in my opinion, was not open to listening. They weren't open to problem solving. They were very angry. They were very divisive, and it had a very negative consequence. Our board meetings were televised by news cameras, and it was a hard thing for my board. It was a hard thing for me. I wished I had a crystal ball and I could have seen what was happening. But at the time, the board was the one who voted for it. I did not. The board was the one who made the decision. But it was coming upon my shoulders. I had approached our board president because I had actually thought about retiring at the end of last year. My children were graduating. I wanted to spend the summer with them and help them get ready for college. And I approached my board president thinking if I took a separation from the board, would that calm things down and let the board continue to do their work? So I did. We had a separation agreement in May, and things did quiet down. The board was able to get their business done, and I felt as though it was a way where I could help have the community heal and move on from this. There was a lawsuit this group filed. They said that this was not done per the Open Meetings Act. They said the contract was written illegally. They said that this was going to harm children. All 3 of those things were thrown out. The judge dismissed all of them. And that was the final straw that happened just after school started. So I feel as though the community is healed or is still healing, but it was probably one of the hardest experiences I've gone through with the board and with the community because it just wasn't a good answer.
What is your experience and what would be your approach to managing public school funds, budgets, school village campaigns, other fundraising efforts?
That's so important. Especially because the ESSER monies are done, and those were terrific in being able to help districts with things that desperately needed to be done. So my approach to budgeting is very conservative. I would never want to be in a position like Ann Arbor is in right now, where they're $25 million shy. I would never want that. So the way that I have been, I don't know, able to not be in that position is to be very conservative. Be conservative in projecting enrollments, be it conservative in projecting healthcare increases, be conservative in what raises might do per the total fund balance. So for example, I was the chief negotiator in Wyandotte. We had 6 unions. When we were negotiating, it was so important to say, what impact is that going to have over, let's say it's a 3-year contract, right? And if it was 4-2-2, the 4% is 1 year, but then the next year your expenses are at 6% because it compounds, and then 8. What does that do to your budget 3 years down the road? Can we afford it? It meant closed sessions with the board saying, this is what they're asking, this is what it would cost. Getting parameters from the board, you know, in 3 years, we don't want to be anything less than 15%, say. And so then I could negotiate and find out where we could be given those scenarios. So that's very important because you never want any surprises at the end of the road. This year we've been blessed and there hasn't been a lot of snow removal. So like overtime for maintenance or whomever is doing snow removal is lower. But salt prices increased. Utilities have increased. How can you make sure that those things don't surprise you? And I view that as one of my most important jobs, to bring that to you and make sure the financial stability is there.
Have you been involved in any village campaigns?
Oh, thank you. I've been at, yes, as a matter of fact, in Wyandotte, I was hired, and then 3 months later, there was a $49 million bond issue. So I hit the ground running to make sure voters knew about it. So that passed. The county ran 2 enhancement millages, and those are additional funds that the county receives, but then disperses to the different districts. That would yield $100 million over 10 years. So that was a wonderful thing to just think about technology, refreshing technology, Chromebooks, smart boards. They don't last forever, and you have to have a plan to refresh them. The last one that we planned for 6 years was a sinking fund. Wyandotte had never had a sinking fund, and we saw the ability to do so. But we planned for 6 years because we wanted to not have it be an increase to voters. So we planned for 6 years to be able to ask for a sinking fund. And again, the word sinking fund is just awful to communicate to voters. But the sinking fund has allowed $10 million of revenue each year. And that's what we dedicate to maintenance, or what we dedicated to maintenance. If it's new windows at a school or a roof or a boiler. And so all of those in coordinate, the other part is working with the city, because you don't want the city to have a fire millage at the same time you're trying to do a bond renewal. So it's coordinating with them, and the timing is important. But all of those were successful. And I think a lot of it was me being in the community, awareness, and talking about what we were going to get. And then it's ribbon cuttings, it's celebrations of look what we have done together to improve our schools.
Thank you.
Please share your experience in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have a different idea about how to do the work.
So I know I talked about it a little bit. One of my references was our teachers union president. And that president, as well as the other 5 presidents, were very important to me. It was important that we could agree to disagree. It was important that I could make them feel heard. It was important that I recognized that what they were bringing to the table was important to them. So through the course of my superintendency, I was the chief negotiator, and we negotiated 18 contracts, so 3 with each unit. I deeply, deeply care about all of them because they're in a hard position. Ultimately, they're going to take something back to their members, and they have to be able to sell it. So what has worked for me is, before any of the negotiations happen, coming to the board to say, what are your parameters? Because I would hate to do something that you didn't feel confident in. So we would talk about what parameters I have. It's very helpful to have your CFO or business official sitting with you. And the reason I say that is we have to know the long-term impact of whatever we're negotiating. I would ask the unions to bring their top concerns, and for some it was salary. I remember working with our secretarial union. They did not have a grievance procedure in their contract. So instead of having a raise that was equivalent to the others, they opted to have a grievance procedure put in their collective bargaining agreement. I also believe that, and this isn't hard and fast, but if teachers are getting a certain raise, that I think every other group should be getting something similar. I don't think it's fair to say one group is more important or should get the lion's share of the pie. So as I negotiated with these groups, I kept in mind that we wanted to honor all of them equally, and that created a feeling of respect, as well as a family feel that we're all in it together.
What's your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators, and what should be our priorities and delivery system?
Can you repeat that for me?
Absolutely. What is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators, and what should be our priorities and delivery system?
So I believe you have established goals for the district. And so those goals should be reflected in the school improvement goals for each school. They should be aligned. And I bring that up because the professional development should align with the school improvement goals, so that you're not focusing on something we did. So it's a comprehensive effect. So I knew we needed a new elementary science curriculum, but we had just implemented a new math curriculum 2 years earlier. So even though we needed science, the teachers were just finding their way, and it would have overwhelmed them if we had added something else to their plate. So a timeline has to be a part of that as well, because teaching is so different than it used to be. Common Core standards, whatever curriculum must be aligned to the Common Core, and then we need to base the professional development on the needs or the goals of that year. And it might not be possible to do every goal every year. So the professional development calendar might look a little bit different from one year to the next, or something might be tabled until the next year, till the time is right. So, you had mentioned delivery, and my experience and I guess as a teacher and then as a principal is that teachers need time to learn, practice it, learn, practice it, learn, and practice it. And so spreading out professional development throughout the year versus just doing it at the beginning or in the summer is something that is more effective than doing 2 days at the beginning of the year and then maybe a day later on. Tying back to the question about the ISD, that's another avenue of professional development, especially for new teachers. So you may have trained teachers in the new science standard 2 years ago. Well, now you have a brand new teacher coming on board. How do you make sure that teacher is caught up to speed with what your existing teachers have? The ISD is also a source to lean on.
For the past 20 years, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build trust back in our community to choose Jefferson over neighboring schools?
So what I have, so my first year in Wyandotte, we had a similar situation. And I ran an enrollment campaign and we netted 100 more students than we had the prior year. The next year it was 89. The next year it was 106. So it's a sustained thing. It's not a one-time shot. I found that telling your story is the best way to do that. What great things do parents and students experience here? And how do you get that word out to neighbors, to people who go to church, who you might run into at the Kroger? So how do you market, how do you package what you have and make it so appealing and so tied to the core values of student achievement, safety, and perhaps mental health support. And I know those good things are happening in your schools. With K-12 media, enrollment campaigns, we worked with Trenton, and it was video in showing teachers talking about students, showing the facility upgrade that they just did. Having the superintendent just talk from his heart, and all of that was successful in bringing in more families for their district. So I really think it is telling your story. It's a wonderful thing that you have for your students right now. How do we let others know?
How would you confront resistance to change and the "we have always done it this way" attitude?
There was a researcher who used the words press and support, meaning if you know it is the right thing and you know that students will do better that way, you continue to press for change while support. So we talked about professional development. We talked about to do this, maybe taking teachers to a district that is doing that. I remember when we were adopting professional learning communities in Wyandotte, there was a group of teachers who were just not sold on this at all. So we took them to see a school that did it, and they sat with other teachers and watched and learned and asked questions, and the light bulb went on. That's what it took. There's another research who talks about early adopters. You get your early adopters on board first. They're the people who are so excited about change. And then they bring along your middle of the road group. And then finally, the fence sitters have no choice but to come along. You've all used the word trust a lot tonight, and I think it's being able to trust each other, to have those hard conversations, for them to understand the why change is important. And maybe it's stepping back and saying, we need to rethink about this.
Thank you.
As our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
So in my entry plan, the first priority is developing relationship, getting to know each of you, getting to know you as a whole, be able to identify how are we going to do business. For example, simple things like how are agendas created? Or how are we going to communicate? If somebody is very opposed, how do we make sure that that person's heard so that you are an effective team? I know the parameters by which we can get our work done and then move forward. Especially being new to this area, I would depend on your guidance. I would depend on you helping me know and how to navigate. So that would come by developing strong relationships from the get-go. The same thing would happen with the central office team, the principals, teachers, being visible, being myself, being willing to listen is what those first 3 months would be.
What causes a school to become excellent?
There are a few things that cross my mind. One is a strong vision and making sure that people know what that vision is. The second is having the resources needed, be it maybe there's grants, maybe there's Title IV money, maybe there's other avenues that haven't been explored. So getting creative about having the resources available to put that vision into place. The research says is what makes students successful are good teachers. And I have seen that. And so making sure teachers are up to speed with the best practices, that they have resources if students are struggling, and that they're good teachers. Somebody said to me, would you rather have your child with a great teacher who has 30 kids or a poor teacher who has 15? 100%, you would want that great teacher. That's what we want all our teachers to be. So it happens in the classroom, and it doesn't happen in the classroom without good leadership, meaning administrators, central office, and a unified board is so critical to having all oars rowing in the same direction.
Perfect. Last question. With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build our CTE courses like our construction trades to compete with our neighboring schools?
So it's a unique situation in Wyandotte because we had those trades in our school. Other schools around us would send students to another campus. It was a consortium. So they may have had, I think they had 9 different districts sending students there. Now that's cost effective, but when I was able to go into a metals lab and see my son learning how to weld, that was, I mean, where else would that happen? And it was neat that students could take things and immediately show their classmates, you know, in other classes or lunch. So I know there are CTE funds from the state, and so I would look at what the needs would be, then create a timeline for the implementation. And then, you know, going back to boosting enrollment, this would be an area to shine. You know, look at what we can offer students here. They don't have to go somewhere else. Cars, we had an autos lab. It had machines that would mirror what was in a dealership. And that meant students could be certified, NATEF certified, and then have such a great job path ahead of them. And whether they worked in that career for a long time or they did it on weekends to support something else, it was a great opportunity for them that started with the high school. So I would look at absolutely wanting to see that grow, but do a needs assessment, figure out how the funding for those things, we had CTE grants. We had BASF in our backyard. They would take students and support them financially through some of our programs. And so it's getting creative with how you can bring those neighborhood resources to that table, because ultimately they need those employees. And they need to be able to tap into the community and have students ready to go. That's exciting. Thank you.
That wasn't too bad.
No.
Thank you. We learned a lot about you tonight. Now it's your turn. Do you have any questions for us?
Could you just highlight something you're very proud about, Jefferson Schools?
There's a lot.
I know.
I'll say, I said this last time. I'm most proud of the community that supports the school, the staff. I'm a Jefferson graduate. My parents are Jefferson graduates. My children are Jefferson graduates. So we really cool. And I'm very proud of what we built here. It's not what it used to be. I hear that a lot, but it's still good. It's still great in my opinion, but we can do better. But I'm proud of what we have here. All of it, rec center, everyone. Anybody else?
I'll go next. I moved to this community about 12 years ago. I grew up 15 minutes north of here in Wayne County at what everybody likes to remind me is not a welcome school. And this is such a community. And I'm still being welcomed in. And there's a lot to know and a lot to learn, but I love it here. My kids love it here. And I don't ever see leaving here.
Quick observation, 5 of the 7 are Jefferson graduates. So that should say a lot.
It does.
We are an extremely proud community, and it'll never change, but we're looking for leadership.
I've only been here 30 years. I'm just now becoming known as a resident Navy.
We're almost like,
My two youngest daughters graduated me back from Ohio. Don't say anything about Ohio State. I think everybody's proud of the rec center. Proud of the center staff. It's a small, well, Woodhaven's not that. I mean, you pay, but it's still a small community, and you know what goes with a small community. I mean, they can all be loyal and all band together, and the next second. So it's a great community. I intend on going to rest here.
I'm a lifetime resident around here. My father drove school bus here for 25 years. I graduated from here. My son graduated from here. It's a tight-knit community. Everybody knows everybody. We all are on the same page. Most of us that are in here that went here knew there were better times. And we want to get back to those times. And we're not giving up until we get there. So,
Very similar to what everybody said, but I guess one thing that holds true to my heart is the CTE program. Definitely construction trades, seeing that grow as much as possible, because this community, I mean, there's a lot of students that have different routes they want to take instead of just doing the college way, which is huge. They want to make sure they can still go that route. It's a still successful route for them to take. So just making sure that we have those programs available and growing those programs, continuing to go forward.
As Iggy said, everybody on this board has some sort of affiliation here, whether we all graduated from here, our children all attend here, currently attend the school, or have graduated from the school. The majority of our teachers are educators, whether it be parapros, bus drivers, custodians, they all are a huge part of this community. They've graduated from here. Their children have came here and graduated from there. There's a lot of pride. I used the words last night, bear pride. It's said all the time, in a family atmosphere, it's meant. We have to get that back. It's bear pride at the top, bear pride at the bottom. It has to be all the way. So that's what I'm most proud of.
Any other questions?
I do not.
Well, thank you again for joining us this evening. Thank you for your interest in our school and our students. We expect to discuss our first round interviews as soon as the last one is completed tonight. We hope to then identify one or more finalists, and then we'll be scheduling second interviews. So we'll be in touch soon.
Dan, you had mentioned maybe a closing statement?
Yeah, you can have
Can
a
I,
call.
do I have time to do
Yeah,
that?
absolutely.
Okay. It has been remarkable listening to you talk about Jefferson. My community is very much the same way. I've lived there for now 10 years, and I am nowhere even close to being homegrown. Even though my children were there, they graduated, it's not uncommon to have generation after generation and after generation. And I've been able to experience the pride that comes with that. So I feel as though it would feel very similar to where I am right now. I also realize that you have all been contacted by some people of my community who have shared some information with you. I'm aware of what was written and what was said, and I am hoping that you have an open mind, because I believe my experience, my dedication, my strong desire to build relationships and trust here is something that would be a great match. You've gotten to know me for an hour. I printed off some letters of recommendation as well as my 90-day plan, because those people have worked with me. There's one board member who was a board member for 28 years, and he really mentored me well when I was a new superintendent. And so I feel like those people are the people that know me the best and can give you a most representation of who I am as a leader. But I would be honored to be a part of this community and help work with you to capture some of those qualities back in Jefferson schools. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're fine. You have a long night.
For those in the audience, we would appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you might recommend for this candidate. Please fill out the form and hand it to Mr. Haynes at this time. Yes, you can take 5. 10. I mean, not here, I'm not. Sorry. That's why.
Well, thanks for letting me know. Hope everything's okay.
I'll never let you know. That's what I'm gonna tell you. Guess what I'm gonna tell you? It's a guy thing.
Have, read what do you think? You know what I mean? Like,
Well. We're no longer allowed to go in. Right. So. No, we're not. I think even without school, that's like.
maybe going down the finals.
Because you're gonna need to ask them the first question. That was pretty good.
How are you, sir? You didn't show up to the party meeting. What's that? You didn't show up to the party meeting. I got something else going on. I told you, you missed the whole 20 minutes. Oh, man, I know. Come to this? Recall. I haven't been there in a while. We've been so busy with this.
I'm a little upset. They run the board here. Nobody said the proud soccer, the boys soccer program, okay? We're the 2023, Apple Cup champions, okay? We won the tournament in Tecumseh, wherever we went last year, okay? Yeah, why? You want me to quit?
No.
Is there a scam?
No.
Don't say those words.
It's all on camera.
Good, now everybody knows. There's no paper too, Apple, whatever, Maple, no, Maple, I think it's Maple Cup.
Yeah.
I don't even remember. And the girls, the team's going good, so, yeah, they got a lot of good girls out there doing a good job. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
7:30. But I think if she slightly went earlier.
You know, I recommend 2 or 3 knowing this. Like, I want to pay this. And that history is scheduled Tells me they're gone. So, yeah,
You say or? No, 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 no.
Yeah.
But it was two person use of
Yeah.
which we said.
Yeah, I don't.
I'm just gonna try to choose.
Yes, no, I understand.
No.
Well, the website says like that.
I don't know. It's
You're just the right person.
They
don't listen.
Yeah.
do that.
That's my point. I think so. I would.
We see this.
Okay, I have to ask, because you guys are so familiar, so you have a child here.
And see what it says or something. How it would be familiar. Their needs is different. Okay. It really is different. That's why your interview is tailored.
Oh my gosh.
Now we're the next.
The next
We got
generation.
this year, yeah.
Generation. Oh, that's awesome. Oh my God, that's exactly right. I didn't realize your mom said it and then, oh yeah. Okay, oh yeah. He's not early for school, about 8. She was in Florida. She's called. Oh my God, that's so funny. I know, but you know what? That's exactly what they're talking about.
Exactly.
That's so cool.
The host name, I don't.
I agree. There's no real to sit that wasn't everything.
All 43 people watching.
Well, that's what I was like. Did really try to do better today. I'm like, usually I would stop for talking.
Well, I'll tell you, I'll make you a deal. At these meetings and stuff. You're not gonna be able to make it. Just don't know. I always thought we could pay.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And I won't charge you too much more. Since they stopped at the same time.
Her interview was fine.
Now everyone's, you gotta pay for it.
Okay. Which, I mean, was higher, yeah. That's. She does. She does. Make me a cup of coffee.
I get one of those, something.
You guys turned out. Came fast.
Set it upside down.
Did you hear that? No.
You have to know what's going on.
Ignacio. Pleasure sharing on that. Turn the camera on. Turn the camera on. He started with this. He started. I'm fine.
I'm sorry. I might wanna do the same for all three. No. Okay, yes. My school shoes. The thing I don't like is they go, but I'm on. Yeah.
Our next candidate this evening is David Rowley. Thank you.
Good evening. On behalf of the Board of Education, I would like to welcome David Rowley to our district. I would also like to thank stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. I'll take just a moment to describe our format, beginning with introductions. Tom Pryor,
Corey McLaughlin.
Shane Foster.
Dan Stone,
Ignacio Gerald Jr.
Ron Bender.
The initial interview should take about an hour. We have 15 questions that we will ask. Board members may ask follow-up questions if they need clarification. After we have finished our questions, we will give our candidate the opportunity to ask questions of the board. We will welcome any closing statement that the candidate would like to offer at that time. Pete Haynes from the Michigan Leadership Institute will help keep us on schedule. Audience members may be most helpful in submitting questions on the forms located near the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions specific to each candidate. If the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and as time permits during a second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education as representatives of our community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and our community in this process. While we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each of the candidates. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis for our hiring decisions. They are printed at the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of the interview. And with that, if we're all ready, we'll begin. As an opener, while the board has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and other relevant work?
Absolutely. So face you or face the public, does it matter?
That's just fine.
Okay, all right. So, as I think in my cover letter, it says over 30 years, but that's actually 31 plus years of actually paying into the Kentucky Teacher Retirement System. If you go back prior to when I first got out of college, started working with kids, I've had well over 36 years in public education. So when I first graduated, couldn't get a full-time teaching job right away, so started as an instructional assistant in a special education classroom. Back then it was behavior disorder self-contained classroom. Did that for a couple of years and then subbed for 3 or 4 years. Worked in after school programs, summer programs, coached. So as eventually got a full-time teaching position in Lexington, Kentucky, and taught health and physical education at the middle school level for 14 years. Decided to go into administration, was the assistant principal at Frankfort Independent in Frankfort, Kentucky, which is one of the smallest school districts in the state. Became a principal in Franklin County, which is the county schools of Frankfort. I was principal for a couple of years. Went on to become superintendent. Did that for a couple of years. Then worked for the State Department for an additional 4. Back to Franklin County as assistant superintendent, and then in my current position, I'm into finishing up my 6th year as a superintendent in LaRue County. It's a rural district of about 2,400 students. We have 5 schools and about 400 full-time employees. So it's kind of my career in a nutshell.
All right, thank you.
How do you think various stakeholders, including parents, community, staff, and even students, should be involved in setting the direction for our schools?
Well, I think they absolutely should be involved. And with no disrespect to any of the stakeholder group, I think student stakeholders are maybe our most important, because those are the stakeholder group that all the decisions that the board makes and the leaders of the district make, those are they had impact on those folks. So I think they need to have a voice. If you saw in my leadership transition plan, you saw that I have some core beliefs. One of those core beliefs is that first-class education is the responsibility of the families, the schools, and the community as well. That's a firm belief that I have, and one of a mission that I have as superintendent is to bridge the gap between the district office and our schools, as well as bridge that gap between the district as a whole and the community, and want the community to feel like they have ownership in what takes place in the schools. So I'll be glad to expand upon that, but I have a firm belief. I'm a very collaborative leader in the sense that I don't believe in a hierarchy. I believe in flattening out that hierarchy. I believe in rolling up my sleeves and getting in there and working with folks. Don't ask anyone to do anything I haven't done or I'm wanting to do myself. So collaborative, value feedback from all stakeholders, making sure that everyone has a voice at the table.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you please tell us how you establish yourself as a committed presence in our district?
How I would, as a committed presence? Well, I think in the district or the community, or just in general?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah, sure.
Well, I think, again, as I alluded to in my cover letter, I hold myself accountable to being accessible, approachable, and visible. And sometimes that's difficult in the shoes of the superintendent, because even though you might have a schedule laid out, I'm going to be in this school for this amount of hours, whatever, things happen, emergencies happen, stuff just pops up that limits that. But one of the things that I try to do is make myself visible in all of my schools as much as possible. I don't know where your elementaries are here, but your middle and high are laid out very similar to what I'm accustomed to in LaRue County, where our high school, middle school, across the parking lot from one another. So that makes it easy to, you know, if they get in that vicinity, get two birds with one stone, be visible and try to visit, you know, all the hallways, all the levels, not just the you know, the leadership suite, but also the rest of the schools, while popping into classrooms. As I mentioned before, building relationships with the students is something I place a premium on. So getting in the classroom and seeing what students are doing and asking questions about their learning and what's taking place there, seeing them out in, you know, in commons areas, whether the hallway or the lunchroom. Then also, you know, being an active participant, not just someone who shows up at the, you know, Chamber of Commerce meetings, Rotary meetings, but actually someone who's involved. You know, for picking up, you know, trash as a fundraiser, I'm doing that. I don't know if you guys know much about Hodgenville, Kentucky, where I'm currently working. That's the birthplace of Abraham Lincoln. So right in the middle of the square with this huge statue of Abraham Lincoln. One of the things that we do every fall before our festival is the Rotary Club. We get up there and we clean that statue to preserve it. I'm one of the people you'll see doing that. So I guess those are some examples of, and I guess my response to that would be to be visible and to make myself accessible and those kinds of things. So that's just kind of an idea of the things that I do currently. Mr. Breyer. We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical district functions?
Can you repeat that so that make sure that I understand the question?
Sure. We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders, okay, who focus on specific roles. Right? Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical functions?
Me individually?
Yes.
Is that okay? That's a very good question, given that, and I've looked at your organizational chart, trying to get an idea of how that's laid out. So, you know, I guess basically, I would have to take charge of all those things where there's not someone that has been appointed as a director. And even in a district as small as the one I currently have, you know, we have directors of like transportation, food service. We have a finance person. So I have all those folks that I collaborate with. So I guess the way I would see it is wherever there wasn't leadership within those roles, I would have to assume, that leadership role, which is a question I'll have for you guys at the end in terms of curriculum instruction. So, okay, thank you. You're welcome.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs, and how should those challenges be addressed?
Biggest challenges with children with special needs. It has been my experience that many times, whether it be students with special needs or students that come from low socioeconomic backgrounds, that oftentimes the expectation level is not at the same level as it would be, for their peers. Again, as noted in my transition plan, I have this core belief that all children can learn at a high level, and we talk about special needs as long as they are provided the appropriate amount of time and the appropriate amount or the appropriate support, whatever that means for that individual child. Again, and don't want to keep going back to what we do in my district, because I'm very proud of what we've accomplished there, but our vision statement includes the whole child. And so that means that we're not focused on just what happens, cognitively, but we're also interested in how that child's needs are met socially, emotionally, getting them involved in extracurricular activities. What does their attendance look like? So again, looking at the whole child. I don't want to get too far away from your question though, because being a father of a child who's special needs, and then being able to be the leader, the instructional leader in that building where he attended school, I understand it caused me to look at the way instruction was delivered through a different lens, if that makes sense. It's one thing to be an instructional leader where you don't really have a vested interest in terms of those kids. And we say they're all our kids. We advocate for all our kids, but when it's your child, you start to see things differently. You start to see things, well, if I wouldn't want that person working with my child, do I want them working with the children of other people? So I had to raise that standard for what I expect instruction to look like. Not just instruction for students with special needs, but at the core level as well. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah.
How would you help us to build a more productive, trusting, effective, and communicating relationship with our community and school district?
I honestly, and I did check out your website, and I tried to gather as much information as I possibly could to see, what kind of relationships there were with the community, with the district, if there were, if that was strong, or if there were gaps there. And so here's what I would say, and this is, again, I believe this with all my heart, or I wouldn't be saying. It's what I've done in my current district, and it's the same thing when other districts I interview with ask me a similar question. I think it's like this. I think there are times where the negative stuff gets out there, and then that stuff kind of grows over time, and that becomes the thing that people equate to that particular school or that particular school district. And so, as it really is any organization, but especially as a school district, every district has a story to tell. Every district is different. Every district has its strong points and the things it wants to celebrate. And here's what I find, that oftentimes districts don't tell their story. And here's the thing about that: if you don't tell your story, someone else will. So I think how you negate that is you take all the positives that take place in your district, and you make sure that through, whether it be social media, whether it be through your web pages, whatever platforms that you have, you get that out to the community so the community can see, here's what we're about. Here are our core beliefs. This is our mission. This is our vision. And then you kind of align that with what's going on, so that folks can see, okay, well, if preparing kids for the 21st century workplace is a core belief of Jefferson schools, here are some examples of what we're doing in our schools to prepare our kids to be successful once they leave the halls of the high school, right? So I firmly believe in telling our story, celebrating our successes, and front loading that as much as you possibly can, because in most cases, the school district is the largest employer in that particular area. So when you have that many employees, things are going to happen. People are going to make the wrong decision, and there might be something negative. And you don't want people latching on that one little negative and letting them define what your school district is. And that, again, I believe that falls upon the folks in this district to tell our own story, what we're about. So that's how we go about handling that.
We all understand hindsight is 20/20. Can you share an example when you made a leadership decision you would do differently today?
Absolutely. I'm going to go back to if you picked up on this, I told you that I was a principal for a couple of years and then decided to become a superintendent, and did that for 2 years. I don't know if you picked up on that or not. So here's what happened. I was young. I thought because I had a piece of paper that says that I was certified to be a superintendent, that I needed to do that. I didn't take into consideration that I needed more time to grow. I needed to become a better leader. I needed to become a better instructional leader. So I made that jump. I left my job of being a principal of a school that I love, people that I love, kids that I love. One of them being my own son, and took a job in a small rural district. Again, going back to that thing about being egotistical, think that I knew it all. When I looked at their data and gathered information that I would with this district as well, I saw that there was lots of low-hanging fruit. I saw that ACT scores were low. I saw that other academic areas were low. And so I knew that the stuff that I had been successful with as a principal, that I could probably go in and make a difference, right? So guess what I did? I went in and started implementing things right away without any, as we talked about that collaboration thing, without any input from anybody else. Now, because folks will respond to positional leadership, people did what I asked them to do because I was a superintendent. You know, I don't get in trouble. I don't want this to look bad on my evaluation, so we did it. And we got gains. We moved from the co-op that we were in. We moved from being last place about middle of the pack before I left. But after I left, guess what happened to all those initiatives? They went by the wayside because people were not committed. They were only compliant. They only did it out of positional power. So once I was gone, they went back doing their own thing. So what I learned from that is that if it's going to be successful, if it's going to be sustainable, if it's going to stick, then I had to seek out input and feedback from the stakeholders that were in that organization. Because here's the bottom line is, regardless of whatever low-hanging fruit there are things that are going on in every school district, every school, positive things that can be built upon. And so I have learned to take that time, as much time as it needed to be, to listen and learn before I started making those kinds of decisions that had an impact on the people that were there before me and will probably be there after me. So that's what I learned from that. So I'm proud to say that in my next stop as superintendent, I did not make the same mistake.
What is your experience? What would be your approach to maintaining or managing public school funds, budgets, school millage campaigns, and other fundraising efforts?
I would really rely heavily on, I think her name was Heidi. Because that person, again, no one knows the financial situation better in the district than that person. So probably the first thing that I would do, I think it's in my plan as well, is sit down and have a conversation with Heidi and dig deep and to see, what the budget looks like. Where are things budgeted? How tight is the budget? Feedback from the board, or are the things that the board feels like could be reduced. And I was asked this question last night at another interview. My process for I guess, for lack of a word, but better term, making cuts. And so if I start, so it's my philosophy, my process is if I start as the student, as the nucleus, I want to go as far out as I possibly can. And the cuts come out here before we get to those things that directly impact students, right? So that would be the first thing. In terms of, did you say fundraising?
Yeah, millage campaign. Have you ever, I don't know if Kentucky did that sort of thing, but up here we have villages.
Yeah.
Have you ever been involved?
Is it okay for you to explain what that is? Okay.
Well, it's asking the public for taxes.
I've been through that.
Increase to help us. It can be a little.
Yes, sir. Oh, a little. Yeah. Yes, I went through that in my current situation. Learned a lot from that. We were not successful in what we were trying to get done, but again, learned from that. Learned that relationships are important. Education is important, and when I say education, I'm talking about educating the public and the community on how tax dollars are used, can be used, and how they're spent. Because sometimes there's misinformation that gets shared out there that goes into decision making when people go to the polls. I don't know if that's the way it works up here, but like, so you know where I'm coming
Across
from.
the country.
Yeah. So I don't know if there's an easy way for me to respond to it other than to say that I have experienced it. And just like anything, I try to learn from those experiences, because if I'm faced with it again, how did it make me better and make me stronger, so that in those situations again, might still be unsuccessful, but if we can move the needle a little bit, And I guess, and that's kind of where I'm at in my current district. Were we successful? No, but did we plant some seeds? Did we get some things out there so that when the superintendent follows me, has to do this again, if we move the needle a little bit? Because if we move it a little bit and get it even closer to meeting the needs of our kids, it's a win. It might not feel like it, but it's a win. So does that help? Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Please share your experience in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have a different idea about how to do the work.
So that's a very good question, and I'm going to be honest and transparent with you up front. That's nothing that Kentucky doesn't do. There's no collective bargaining there, so I have absolutely zero experience with that. The only thing that I can tell you in terms of it's just like anything else that we've already talked about. I always, no matter what district I've been in, as a leader, I've always developed really good relationships with our education association. So like in Kentucky, it's the Kentucky Education Association. And there are some districts that have unions, like Jefferson County, where my wife works, they have a large union, but for the most part, the small rural districts do not. But I've always maintained a very positive and healthy relationship with those organizations, because it doesn't come down to bargaining for contracts and calendars and stuff like that. But there are times where again, if it's a personnel issue, to make sure that we're on the same side in terms of doing what's best for a child and not what's comfortable for an adult. Those are kind of conversations I've had. So I know that doesn't really get to what you're talking about there, but all thing I can tell you is that I'm a lifelong learner and I continue to grow. And so regardless of the situation that I'll be in, whatever new situation I have to adapt to, I'm going to learn and I'm going to do it to the best of my ability. I'm going to seek, if something were to happen where I were to get a job in a state where collective bargaining is the issue, I would seek out guidance from superintendents who have done that and pick their brain on how to best move forward. So I apologize, but full disclosure.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
What is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators? What should be our priorities and delivery system?
In Kentucky, there's a statute that says the number of hours that educators have to have, and lots of times those things get prescribed for the teacher. And I'll tell you that I don't always agree with that, because just like we train our teachers to understand that all kids are different, all kids learn differently, and all kids have different needs, then sometimes we fail to pass it along when it comes to professional development. And then we have this one size fits all where that's not necessary. And again, I can say it because I have been there. You know what I mean? I've been that teacher who had to partake in professional development that really was not going to do me any good in my classroom, not going to help me move my kids. So my vision would be, again, I will never violate law. I will never, go against board policy. So with that being said, I guess my vision would be, if possible, within that framework, my vision would be to, whatever the growth items that have been deemed appropriate for that individual, then there would be, I would expect there would be some professional development around that to help that person grow. But I'd also like to see that person, if they felt like there were growth items that they wanted to pursue that wasn't necessarily prescribed by the school or the district, that they would have an opportunity to do that as well. And again, now that would be my vision in a perfect world, but I have to operate within the guidelines of what we're allowed to do. What was the other part of that question?
Priorities and delivery system.
So I guess again, the priorities would just simply be based off in terms of priorities. In my situation, those priorities are based off the feedback that I provide to. I don't do teachers right now, but I do evaluations currently in the middle of that. I do some evaluations with my principals, and so that's just based off of the observations that I see of them, conversations that I have, and like to see them in multiple scenarios, whether it be, classrooms observing teachers, or whether it be in, other areas of their job. And so those would become the priorities, but again, it would be individualized based on that particular person. And again, how I go about doing that, it's very simple. At the beginning of the year, I sit down with my folks and we talk about what their growth plan is, and that growth plan is usually multidimensional in terms of we look at several goals. And again, forgive me, but I'm choosing my district as an example. We look at academic achievement, we look at working condition goals, and then we look at just a professional goal that they want to look at. And so we create a plan. I visit with them 3 times throughout the year. We monitor progress toward that. I give them feedback on that. And at the end of the year, just like currently with my board, I provide them evidence of the standards that I'm held to. The same thing goes with my folks. Again, it's really no different than being in the classroom where teachers have standards that they're teaching, and then everything should be controlled that standard. It's the same thing with professional growth. There are professional standards, and that's what those priorities should be geared toward. So I don't really kind of go off the grid there. We kind of stay in line with what the expectations are. It's much easier to give feedback and hold folks accountable and provide interventions and support if we do it that way.
All right. For the past 20 years, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build trust back from our community to choose Jefferson over our neighboring school districts?
So I think the first thing I do is find out why, and if it would be possible to maybe talk to some of those families. You know how many years data you have, historical data?
Over the last 20, we've studied.
Oh, the last 20.
Yeah, we've 24 actually
Okay.
in reality.
So probably couldn't go back that far to talk to folks. But within the last couple of years, what's causing you to want to leave? And then again, take that information, if we can, bring the information back and probably talk to principals and other folks that have been around a while, and even current community members, just again to get a feel for, what is your perception of the school district? Do you feel like that Jefferson schools are producing the kind of graduates that can go out here and be successful in the 21st century workplace? If not, what are the kind of things that need to be done? So I think first and foremost, you've got to figure out why. And then secondly, I go back to what I said a while ago in terms of the promotion. I don't, and again, maybe I'm looking in the wrong places, but I had a hard time finding where Jefferson Schools was really promoting itself. And so there's an opportunity to try to reach out to those folks. And again, re-examine. I mean, are there survey results that where community members are saying? And again, you may have that. And please forgive me if you do, and I've overlooked it. But are there is there feedback being gathered where community members say these are the competencies, these are the skills, this is the knowledge that we would expect a Jefferson County High School student to enter the workforce with, or leave high school with, and allow the community to have that kind of feedback. And then how do you put that in place? And I know you've got your
Fair pledge?
yes, you've got that. So I guess the question I would ask is there a learner profile in place? Is there a graduate profile in place? Do you have all those things in place? And if not, what can we do to get that rolling? And that does a lot of things. And then that starts to bring the community together, because again, when I talk about just what school people think the kids need to know, what does the community as a whole think that they need to know? And then what that does kind of organically is it starts to pull everybody together. So that now all of a sudden, it's even though you've got community and the district, different entities, but now they start kind of working together and they feel good about each other. So that's where I would start, figuring out the why, and then taking the things that we're good at, and like I said before, telling our story, getting it out there, celebrating the successes. So I think you can do it. Really do.
Thank you.
How would you confront resistance to change and the "we have always done it this way" attitude?
I think you start by, again, it comes back to that listening thing and listening to understand and understanding that it's really not change that people are afraid of. It's just how is that going to impact me that they're afraid of. And that is that statement has been the demise of lots of progression in many organizations, not just school districts. So I think you start by listening and figuring out what their apprehensions are, and allow them to provide feedback. And maybe you've got some options out there that where it's not my way or the highway. It's several options, and therefore the change can eventually evolve. And maybe it doesn't look like what whoever was initiating the change to begin with. It doesn't look like that, and maybe it's not as bad as what the person who was fearing the change looks like. But maybe it's something that everybody can get on the same page with. And I get it. There's not any of us sitting in this room you've gotten comfortable with something, and then now you're being asked to change, and then you become very apprehensive about how's it going to affect me? What am I going to have to do? So I think put people's minds at ease about that. But here, first and foremost, when you talk about a school district, at the end of the day, it has to be about what is best for your kids. And even though change might be difficult, might be hard, and I'm going to give you that opportunity to listen. At the end of the day, and I've had this conversation with folks before. I'm going to listen. You're going to have a place at the table. You're going to be heard. At the end of the day, I have an obligation, responsibility to do what's best for kids. And that's kind of that has served me well for 36 years, and I won't deviate from that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, as our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and the staff?
Well, I don't know the kind of relationship as an entity that you have either individually or collectively with the current staff. But my vision coming in would be that we have this understanding that we're all on the same team. When I first began my job in LaRue County, we used to learn the term team quite a bit, and I did a book study with both my leaders in the school district. Same book with my board, and that book was called it's John Gordon about being a positive. I can't remember the exact title off the top of the head. I guess I'm make a little nervous. But the power of a positive team. That was it. The power of a positive team. And so the idea there was again. Get everybody on the same page. So here's the idea behind this, right? Is that we all have different roles. The board has a role, the superintendent has a role, right on down to our bus drivers and our custodians and everybody in between. We all play a role, right? Even though our roles and responsibilities are different, it comes back to what I just told Tom. At the end of the day, we all have a responsibility obligation to make a difference with our lives and the kids that we serve. So therefore, it doesn't matter whether I'm the superintendent and that person is the bus driver. We're all in this thing together. We just have different roles. And I tell people I don't micromanage unless I have to micromanage. And I guess what that means is when I have to hold people accountable, I'll do that. But I let people. I hire quality people and I allow those people to do what they're trained to do. And I don't get in the way unless they're not getting the job done. So coming back to your question, working with the board to make sure that they understand that they are an integral part of what takes place in the school district. And I get it, I understand that you have your roles, there's what you can do and what you can't do, but you still play an integral role. I have my role, the schools have their role. And the way I explain it to our cabinet, going back to Tom's initial, one of his original questions was, about wearing, different hats in the community or in the district. When I first brought our cabinet together, they couldn't understand why is everybody able to come together at the same time? And so the purpose there was to make them understand that we're all on the same team. We need to be a well-oiled machine. And everybody in here has their own cog, right? But the machine doesn't work and it doesn't operate smoothly without everybody understanding how the other cogs work. And that's why I bring them together. And we do that once a month right now so that they can hear. Because even if something as simple as, let's just take the eclipse that's coming up. I don't know if that's going to impact you guys. Impact just a little bit. But so we've got people talking about, well, we'll just cancel school. Well, that has an impact on transportation. That has an impact on food service. That has an impact on people's contract base. So I need to bring people together. That's just one example to understand how the decisions that you make are things you're thinking, how's that going to impact other people? And so I guess, Ignacio, that would be what I would do. What can I do to bring us all together? And we're not always going to disagree or always going to agree. That's part of the family. I guess it's where I was going to go with that other thing. We don't refer to it as team anymore. Refer to it as family, because at the end of the day, we have to take care of each other. And that's kind of where we're at in our district. We've got to love on each other and take care of each other because sometimes we don't get there anywhere else. And also, we talk about the community, but the board and the staff also have to bring the community that fold so they realize, their place in that and their cog in that machine.
What causes a school to become excellent?
Lots of research on this. John Hattie, I don't know if you guys have read John Hattie's work, the meta-analysis, where he took all kinds of research and put together. And I alluded to it before. I think it's your question. Do you guys? And so what his research looked at was effect size. All these different things that we do in the school. What has the greatest effect on student achievement? And so you can look at number of students to a teacher. You look at homework. All these different variables. But do you guys know what the thing that had the number one effect size on student achievement? Expectation. Having high expectations. So I think that's where you begin, and it goes back to what you said before. Not just having high expectations of kids that we know that come from families where there's lots of support, but also having expectations for those kids. Kids like me who grew up in a low-income environment, who was a first-generation high school graduate, who's a first-generation college graduate. Those kids that need to someone there to let them know that. Just be what happened in the lives of your family before you got here does not mean that needs to continue with your life. At any time, you can make that change. And are we there to show that belief and have that high expectation to provide that support? But then I think that only goes so far. Having the high expectations. What about expectations for our staff and the kind of instruction that they deliver? Is that are we delivering high level instruction? Are we expecting our kids to operate at a high level? Are we using? And again, I have no idea what goes on in the classrooms at Jefferson schools. I'm just kind of throwing some stuff out there, things that I had experienced in the past. Are we just doing worksheets that you teach you from the textbook, or are we providing deeper level learning where kids are, there might be a standard here, but I'm able to demonstrate what I know and what I can do with my hands and building some kind of a project-based learning, right? Those types of things, especially when we're talking about preparing kids for the 21st century workplace, those are the kind of things that they need to do, not to, multiple choice on a worksheet. And again, no disrespect anymore. I'm just saying those are the kind of things that have to change if you have a high expectation and you want excellence. Those are the kind of things that would need to change in your classroom and in your schools. And I'll be honest with you, that starts at the top. That starts with leadership. That starts with the superintendent, and then it goes down to the principal, and even down to, this is the thing, teachers are leaders. They are the leader of their classroom. All right? And so what they should be doing is creating other leaders as students. And so it's just a trickle down effect. So I hope, I just such the tip of the iceberg with that with you, Corey. But it's the expectation and then having those things to support those expectations.
With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build our CTE courses like construction trades to compete with our neighboring schools?
Again, you've got it at a disadvantage. Do you, and I'm again a little bit familiar with this situation where I'm currently at. We do not have a career technical education center. You guys have anything like that? You have your own standalone? Well, that's awesome. See, we don't have that, which is one of the reasons that we were trying to get a facility tax passed so that we could provide that. Get off topic here just a little bit. The reason I wanted that is because that's what stakeholders said they wanted. Just what you're saying. We want more opportunities, more vocational skills opportunities for our kids, more career technical education stuff for our kids. And we've done that since I've been there. But one of the things that I've had to do is I didn't have a center to work with. So we've had to create those pathways within our high school. We've had to create partnerships with surrounding districts. Maybe some of the pathways that district doesn't have any interest in, but they still have pathways because we can't offer auto mechanics, construction, anything like that. So we've got to send our kids over there. Or there might be a district that says, okay, you got an ROTC and an ag program. We don't have that, but we've got a strong engineering program. So we have a reciprocal agreements with those folks. Those are some of the things that we have done. Honestly, I would just have to see the programs that you have and see where the interest of kids are. And I would bet that you guys pathways that you offer are congruent with the skills and the labor workforce that's needed in your community. So I guess that's one of the things I would be certain of. That, whether it be surveying or talking to industry leaders, what are those skills that you need? What do you need what kind of labor skills do you need in the workforce once our kids graduate and come to you? And then make sure that we're providing those kinds of things, within our CTE program. I don't feel like I answered that question thoroughly. Can you tell me what?
We have a pretty successful construction trades class.
Yeah, okay.
It's been ongoing for a lot of years.
Okay.
We used to have a big metal shop, machine shop, CNC machining, electronics, so on and so forth. The electronics machine shop, welding,
Yep.
Electronics have all went to the wayside. To build us back to compete, we want a plan to add all them back and be more competitive to where we're not losing students to neighboring districts that are going for that. That's just.
So I guess it's okay for me to ask a question. Are kids leaving to go take the construction classes somewhere else? Or are what in terms of data, how many are you losing kids in that particular pathway over time? Is there still a good offering there?
I'm not sure about the exact data on per child or per student, but it's kind of an addition, this compounded with that.
So it sounds like you guys are losing students to surrounding districts for a variety of reasons. It sounds like that's one of them, maybe the CTE stuff. So I guess I go back to that question originally. You want to find out, well, why are you leaving this district to go someplace else? What is taking place in that district? What is being offered in that district that's not offered here? And I think that's where we need to start because otherwise we're not going to know what we need. And I guess then the other part of that is, without knowing what the current enrollment is for those classes, you know, what do we need to do to ensure that program stays healthy, that you continue to have kids coming into it. So is there, and this is a rhetorical question, but like, so is there any kind of offering at the middle school to introduce those kids to at an early grade so that they would lock in and follow that all the way through the high school? So those would be some of the things that I would inquire about, but without knowing what those reasons are, we're going to give you you know what I mean, a real substantial.
That concludes the questions that we have. Thank you for the conversation this evening. We have gotten to know you a lot better. Now we'd like to give you the opportunity to learn a little bit about us. Do you have some questions for us?
And you may not know the answer to this question. And again, it's something that I pay attention to in my district, and our board holds us accountable to. And so it's kind of on my radar. So whenever I'm doing research and getting information on other districts, if their data is part of this research, I pull it out. And so one of the things that I noticed about Jefferson schools in terms of recovering from math and reading since the pandemic, and it's not in every district. A lot of districts have started, you know, they dropped, you know, since the pandemic they dropped, and now they're kind of starting to trend up. And I don't know if you guys are aware, but in math and reading, this is grades 3 through 8. Your data in both math and reading continues that steady decline. And I just didn't know if you guys had any ideas of why. And I know that you have a learning loss mitigation plan that was updated in 2022. And I was just curious if you had any thoughts as to why the decline continues so dramatically.
I don't know why it continues so dramatically. It is a good question. I know we have done things in the district such as adding interventionalists in the buildings at all levels, elementary through high school, in math and reading. I think there's been some improvement. And I'm just going to be honest, I'm not a big data guy or a standardized test guy. So there's so much more to a student than a test score.
Couldn't agree more.
And I think sometimes we get lost in that data. I'm not saying that data is not important, because it is. We've got to base our plans on something. But it's so much more important to look at students as a person. Like, maybe they learn differently. And I think our staff, I know our staff does that every day. They look at these kids as individuals and develop plans for these students one-on-one to make sure that they succeed in the classroom. And that's what's important to me. So I probably didn't answer your question very well, but I know it's an issue when you look at those numbers, but I feel we are attacking it on the front lines. And anyone else can answer.
And I appreciate your focus on the whole child. I could not agree with you more on that.
I think the other thing is just curriculum, meaning what curriculum we're actually teaching, which we're still going through the process of implementing and going through new stuff. So I think that's also been the challenge in the past years, is seeing that decline, is that curriculum is old and could have been refreshed, has been refreshed, but we've done a lot of it in-house. We're looking at different ideas and different ways to bring that to the students.
Okay, that makes sense. So to piggyback off that, you bring up a very good point. We've done the same thing. We used our ESSER money, our pandemic relief money, to put interventions in place. And then one of our concerns, we have as a district, and each of our principals, when I've met with them recently about allocations of budget, they've expressed the same concern that money's running out. So, you know, how do we continue to fund, if that's a priority, how do we continue to fund those positions? Has that been an issue for you guys?
It is an issue. because the funds are going away. And those positions are so important. I think the work that they're doing is phenomenal with the students. So I'll go back to something that you said earlier. We have to be making decisions that are right for students. Sometimes they're not the best for adults. And the job of a board is to be fiscally responsible to the district. But I also have to be responsible to provide those students an education. So I think it's very important that we look at those budgets and find that money to make sure we can secure those positions.
And I'll add to that, we have a lot of title funds that come in.
Yeah.
So participate in Title I and then 31A, which is Michigan's at-risk funding.
Okay.
So we get funding from both federal and state level for our at-risk students, and that's definitely something that we look at providing interventionists and other supports for our students in that way.
Wonderful. Now, the other last question I have, as a board, what do you, we don't have to provide 7 different responses, but you're more than welcome to do that. But just, as someone who's coming in, not only, coming from a whole different state, what do you see as being the biggest challenge in this position?
In this position? Or
Well, in the new superintendent, yes. I don't know all of your own
All the different hats you can have for it.
the number
All
of
the
hats.
different hats you can have for it.
Presence.
If you saw our structure.
Yeah.
It's the CFO and you.
Yeah, so you reminded me of my question, and I guess that kind of answered that. So it comes back to the curriculum stuff. So is there not someone designated? I think there was an interim for something, but I don't know where I saw that, but it wasn't on the org chart. Is there not someone designated for curriculum instruction and assessment?
So there's a position right now that is a temporary position. It is a curriculum consultant.
Yeah.
Basically put into place because we're opening a middle college here.
Yeah.
It's going to open up next year. That's a need for the district for sure.
Yeah.
But currently that's not a long-term position.
Okay.
To answer your question about leadership, we need that big time. We've not had in my opinion anyway, a very good superintendent in a long time. Basically, since our enrollment's been going down, really we've struggled to have good leadership. Nobody's really taken charge to stop the bleed. We need leadership very bad.
So when you say good superintendent, how would you define that? Or good leadership, how would you define it in terms of your
The teachers, the board, everybody looking up to our leader and buying into what our leader says and seeing good, holding our leader accountable and seeing results.
I was going to say implementation and accountability is huge. So definitely accountability across the board for everybody. And I think it's going to be a challenge for sure for that position because there's been so many changes over the years, so many staff changes, so many leadership changes that we just want to find that stability to continue to grow further.
And I don't mean to continue to ask so many questions. You guys want to get out of here. If I get back to do, but just so are you experiencing issues in staffing, whether it be teachers, bus drivers, custodians, or whatever? Is that
Yes.
Just us too. Okay.
And even finding the staff. And trying to bring new staff here.
Right.
And keeping and retention of staff. So there's
We're at a loss. We're right next to Wayne County, which is where Detroit is, and their wages there are much higher. And so it's difficult to get people, and being a small district, everybody wears a lot of hats and everybody works twice as hard.
No, I believe it.
I believe you do believe it.
Do you have anything else you'd like to share?
I do not. Listen, here's something I want to share is I want to say thank you. Thank you for taking your time to meet with me this evening. I know you guys are busy. You got a lot going on. thank you for indulging my questions. I have all kinds of questions, but just know that I appreciate your time.
Most life learners have a lot of them. Thank you again for coming in this evening. And we thank you for your interest in our school. We will be discussing the first round interviews as soon as the last interview is complete today. And then we hope to be identifying one or more finalists and we'll be in contact.
Wonderful. All right. You guys and ladies, have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
For those in the audience, we would appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you might recommend for this candidate. Please fill out the form and hand them in to Mr. Haynes at this time. We'll take about 5 minutes before the next interview. We can take 10 now.
And they can hear the quick scratch break, he's here, but he's getting embarrassed.
Anyone have questions specific?
Shane.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I like that. I looked at what he said, yeah. I wasn't listening. All I know is that it was like, well, yeah. But when he says the interview, that's not how I was. They just have to be there. Remanage their I wish they would change that. How many times? No. You don't, but he doesn't. Programs. It's personal. I like his idea about graduation. What are they doing? What's up to? I thought that was great. What do you do? Exactly. What do you do? How does Jefferson prepare you? You know,
Absolutely.
I remember.
Very good.
Yeah. Yeah.
What we had last time, obviously,
Somebody brought that up.
Other than it's gonna be.
we are forever grateful.
Or no, Sean.
Yeah, Sean's like.
Oh.
Even trimesters, like, we're ahead of the
I would say as a student and you.
The materials are helping.
Yeah, I.
Oh, yeah, that little summary you did is really nice. Yeah, that helped me. I mean, I was going through everything and writing down.
But it's good to go through it because you'll see things I didn't.
Yeah.
I'm hoping to work it out. Good ones out there now.
We gotta do that tonight, right?
You really should. You'll lose candidates if you don't keep it.
Yep.
What's that?
It's not me.
Sure.
I'm sure.
Our next candidate asked that I hand this out. He is here. I am gonna take it. I don't know, for some reason I got it. I'm finding them. I thought.
Dance stuff.
Thank you.
Some of it.
I thought so.
Why didn't you try that first before asking us?
Wow. Yeah.
There he is. Good evening. Our next candidate is Dr. Dwayne Richard. I did Richardson. For some reason, I did Richardson. Thank you. Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
How you doing?
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me and taking the time out of the day. This evening, thank you all for having me as well.
I gotta get these glasses.
I don't know. Good evening, on behalf of the Board of Education, I'd like to welcome Dr., I want to say it wrong, David Richardson? Dwayne.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I already messed it up. I would like to also thank the stakeholders who have joined us for this important work. I will take just a moment to describe our format, and we'll start with introductions. Tom Fryer,
Corey McLaughlin.
Shane Foster.
Dan Stump,
Jackie Lancaster.
Ignacio Majaro Jr.
Ron Bednar.
The initial interview should take us about an hour. We have 15 questions for you, and the board may ask follow-up questions if they need any clarification.
Okay.
After we have finished with our questions, we will give the candidate the opportunity to ask questions of us. We will welcome any closing statement that you'd like to offer at that time. Peter Haynes from the Michigan Leadership Institute will help keep us on schedule tonight. Hard job. Audience members may be most helpful in submitting questions on the forms located near the doorway entrance. The board will consider these suggestions specific to each candidate if the form is signed, the questions are not duplicates or illegal, and as time permits during a second round interview. The task of choosing our next superintendent is the responsibility of the Board of Education as representatives of the community. We appreciate the perspectives of our staff and our community in the process. While we are not seeking recommendations as to which individual should be hired, we are seeking your input in terms of identifying and verifying evidence of skills and attributes about each of the candidates. Please keep in mind the factors we may not legally use as a basis for our hiring decisions. They are printed on the bottom of the form. Mr. Haynes will collect these forms at the end of the interview. And if we're all ready, we can begin.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. As an opener, while the board has had the opportunity to review your resume, our audience has not. Would you please briefly review your professional background and experience in public education and other relevant work?
Okay. Once again, thank you for having me. My name is Dwayne Richardson. I'm 27 years in education. That includes 17 years of administration and with the focus of leadership and curriculum development. I began as a math teacher and had an opportunity to work on one of the greatest leaders in the city of Detroit, which brought me a long way and inspired me to go into administration. And I found that leadership was a passion of mine that I didn't know I had in me, and it was just a fun ride. It's been a fun ride since. The amount of leaders that I've experienced throughout my journey in education has been tremendous. It has taken me from, I started at Detroit Public Schools before it became Detroit Public Community School District. But I've been curriculum director in a high school. I've been assistant principal of a high school. I've been a principal of an elementary school. I've been curriculum director of a district. I've coached superintendents in Florida. I've also worked, as a curriculum director of a small charter district. I was a turnaround assistant superintendent in Florida, which was very interesting and fun. I came back to Detroit and I became the curriculum director at Harper Woods School District. I also moved up into the chief operating officer / assistant superintendent.
Thank you. It's like this.
How do you think various stakeholders, parents, community, staff, and even students should be involved in setting the direction for our schools?
Thank you for that question, Ms. Lancaster. First and foremost, it is very important that everybody, we as an entire stakeholder piece in the educational process, understand what we want our schools to look like. And that includes parents, students, the board, employees, teachers, everybody we're all going in the same direction. So it's important for us to understand what we want our schools to look like. So having a voice from parents, staff, community, business members, that is important because the educational foundation is the hub of every community. And so every community is not the same.
all communities, a lot of communities are different. Now, there are some cookie cutter communities, but all communities are different. What work in one district may not work in another. So we have to understand what we're trying to accomplish and where we're trying to go. And so that is the role and responsibility of everybody to understand what we want, what our parents want from us. What do they want our kids to learn, and what direction they want their kids to go into? And then our job as an educational facility is to provide that to them. How do we provide it? Ask. Just ask. They'll tell you. And then our role is to make it happen, no matter what. Give our parents what they want, give our kids what they need, and provide it with excellence. And so the role that all our stakeholders play is important. And we have to ask. That includes surveys, talking to people, getting to know it, getting to know the community, having conversations with students. And they'll tell you everything. But it begins with a conversation and the knowledge base and understanding who are we serving, because we serve them. And once you understand that and that knowledge is based upon what you need to do, everything will fall into place. So if I know the community there's a direction the community wants to go into, the board is for that direction, then what steps do we need to take to get this district in that direction? And do it at where we can be financially prudent with the way we do it, so that we're not putting the district in harm.
Okay, please tell us how you will establish yourself as a committed presence in our district.
Thank you. That's a very good question. And first and foremost, I know that my last answer for the first question was talking about talking to people and getting in the community, understanding the business around here, how the community functions, how the school functions in the community, and how I can learn what's going on here. Because I have to learn. Any building, any district that I walk into is still a new learning experience. And so the first thing I have to do is listen and learn. And then I get out there and I talk. And once I understand the expectation, how this school district functions within the city, understand the people we serve and how they want to be served, those questions answer themselves. So it is incumbent upon me as a leader of the district is to get out and talk to people, get out and meet people. I am very talkative. I can talk your head off because I like to talk and I like to meet people and I like to get to know who you are and who your family is. And even if we've been in this school district 4 generations, well, I want to know that. And in order for me to know that is to get out and talk to people. Knock on doors, say hello, introduce myself. I've done it before. I did it in one of the worst areas in the city of Detroit. We're 4 blocks east, west, south, and north. Knocked on every door, introduced myself. And it made a big difference in our community, in that community right there. And so when you're talking about growing on a larger scale or dealing with an entire district, talk to people. Spend some time in the city, in the community. It's nothing wrong with that. And get to know people. And again, I like to talk. You'll tell. You like to talk, but I like to listen as well. We used to have a saying about a wise old owl. I'm a wise old owl. Sit on that and just listen and get to know people. And enjoy the conversation, and you learn so much more.
Thank you. You're welcome. Mr. Frye.
We understand other districts, including some you may have served, operate with a large team of leaders who focus on specific roles. Given our size, what roles do you expect to play in a variety of critical district functions?
Okay. So I worked in a district similar to this size. Harper Woods, when myself and the superintendent, who I served under, started, it was about 1,400 students. We grew it to about 3,000 within 3.5 years. But it took work. And getting to understand our deficiencies, getting to understand what we do best, and highlighting those areas that are our strengths, and then finding out what our parents want. A lot of surveys, a lot of getting to functions in the small city and meeting people, attending parades and talking to parents and understanding, their visual mindset of what the district looks like to them from their lens, and understanding how that plays a role in what we should be doing to correct the areas of weaknesses and then develop the areas of strength that we have. Everywhere I've been as a leader, the institutes have grown, whether it be a school, whether it be a district. And growing the school and growing the district is finding out. If you have to make a decision why you want to come to Jefferson, which we should be taking that away, because Jefferson is the place to be. If we need to make that decision, I need to know why, so that I can correct it. Because I want parents to feel, without a shadow of a doubt, my kids going to Jefferson schools. We know the history of Jefferson schools. You guys been the top 50 school district for a long time, till just recently. Well, we got to get back to that glory and make it where it's supposed to be. And as a leader, I am dedicated to making sure Jefferson gets there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
What do you see as the biggest challenges in serving children with special needs, and how should those challenges be addressed?
Two things. And this is not germane to Jefferson. So I want to make sure that's clear, because I haven't had a chance to take a deeper look inside. I don't make just snap judgments on data just because I see data posted on. Can't tell what a district is about until you walk the halls, to talk to parents, to talk to students. But to get back to your question, resources. Do we have the resources available so that every student can be successful? That's the biggest issue with special education. Second thing is training. Our staff has to be trained to handle every aspect of our special needs students. Every aspect. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It is unacceptable that we cannot handle an issue with our special needs students. So training and having the resources that they need to be successful. So we're not going to just say, oh, we're going to train you and this is what you're going to do. They have the resources and the power to do. And I don't know if you're ready. Curriculum is my thing. I love curriculum. It's a passion. Leadership is that other passion. Something's wrong, but it's my passion. I study it, I learn it, because I want every child, no matter what their demographic is, to be successful. How do we get there? Meet their needs.
Thank you.
How would you help us to build a more productive, trusting, effective, and communicated relationship with our ISD?
So, thank you for that question. I believe in relationships. I am very connected with Washington ISD. I am very connected with Wayne Risa, Oakland ISD, and I'm connected with them. And I will get to know them because a lot of resources are at our ISD. And I will make sure as the district leader that we are connected and we are getting everything that our students deserve. Whether it be training for our staff, whether it be information that's coming down from the state, for our stakeholders who are in politics. I will connect with our superintendent of ISD. We'll meet, we'll talk. When they know something, I'm going to be right there to get that information from them. And then whatever we need here to benefit our district, Jefferson, we will get it. I will work tirelessly, and I will shake hands, I will talk to people, I will get on their nerves if I have to, but I will succeed for our students here at Jefferson. And so getting to know the ISD, the superintendent, the assistant superintendent, all those stakeholders at the ISD, yeah, I'll be there. And I will get to know them, I will talk to them, I will speak on our behalf. It's our, not the district, it's our behalf for our students. Sure.
We understand hindsight's 20/20. Can you share an example when you made a leadership decision you would do differently today?
An example of a leadership decision that I would change today with the knowledge that I know now, I would have went into education prior to going to college. I mean, when I decided to go to college, I would have went into education. I didn't know that I would love it like this. And I hope my passion for it reverberates from and emanates from me, because I didn't go into college to be an educator. I had already started my business and went into electronics. I was going to be a computer technician. I was going to be the best. I started a job straight out of college at Jackson State University. I went over to Atlanta, Lucent Technologies. I was someone they recruited. I was very excited. And then my mom got sick. So I had to come home to Detroit. And then coming home, I had to take care of my mother. And a good friend of mine who we worked together to help her. Math is beautiful. It's a language to me. And she asked me to come teach for her. And I stepped in that classroom, I never looked back. It was the best fun I ever had. And again, I just have been truly blessed to run across great people. The second principal that I ever came across made me want to become a leader and entering in leadership roles. So that initial decision to take a major in something else besides education was the worst mistake of my career. Because I missed out on years I could have been educated.
Thank you.
Tom?
What is your experience and what would be your approach to managing public school funds, budgets, school millage campaigns, and other fundraising efforts?
I mentioned earlier that I am a stickler about district funds. I believe in having a rainy day fund. I believe in staying in the black. So if it does not conflict with what kids need, we will remain in the black. And I will get us there. Sometimes that includes making hard decisions, but I'll present it to you. And as a team, because we are a team, we'll make a decision. It may be hard, it may be difficult, but we will make a decision that best supports our students. But we will be in the black. As far as millage, I successfully pushed through 2 villages in Harper Woods. We do have an A++ rating because of it. I would like to really brag about that because I'm very happy. Because I do mean to take care of, be financially prudent. But I also know that facilities need updated. Facilities, and electronics need to be improved. But it starts with our parents and making sure that we are doing what we're supposed to do so they can feel comfortable ensuring that we got to take a hit because that's what the village is. It's added taxes. But they want to know, are their money going to be spent where it's supposed to be? And they want to see the benefits in their kids. And so, again, that goes back to my responsibility and then the team's responsibility because I have to bring it to the team. And then we have to agree because you support the community. And so I'm particular when it comes to fundraisers. We will look at the policy that governs our fundraisers and make sure we do everything to the letter. We will not deviate. We will account for every cent that we collect. I am a stickler about that. And just a little side piece why. And no one has money just to give away. We do what's best for our kids as parents. But nobody has money to give away. So I expect that every dime that I donate to a fundraiser goes to that fundraiser. And it's my job. And I am accountable for that. And I will be held accountable. So if you're going to hold me accountable, guess what? Everybody will be held accountable. And we're going to follow it to the letter. And if our policies are not where they need to be to make sure we follow it to the letter, I'm coming to my team and we're going to make sure those policies are where they need to be. Because we're going to ensure financially, we're going to be financially fiscal for every year we're supposed to be. And if we're not, because I did look into the budget, if we're not, we will get there. And it's my job to get us there. And I will be transparent in everything that I do, because transparency is something that we have to be. Our parents will know what's going on, because we're going to communicate. That's our number one role as a governing body, communicate. And we're all on the same page and rolling in the same direction. Guess what? We'll get to where we want to fast.
Thank you.
Please share your experience in contract negotiations, labor relations, and managing a team who might have a different idea about how to do the work.
The lesson was managing the team.
Managing a team that might feel differently than you about how to do the work.
Okay. So I've also negotiated 2 contracts. Now, allow me to geek out for a second. At the end of the day, we have to do what's best for kids. We have to be fair to teachers. So oftentimes, we have to understand their side and our side, as well as what's best for kids. But I work for the board, and I work for the community, and I work for the kids. I will negotiate it fair and understand what the contract needs to be. We'll make sure language is right. We'll check with our legal representatives to make sure that we are doing the right thing. And then when we're ready to come to the board after we agree, and we will agree, I will be able to present something to you that you can be proud of. That's, again, that's my job. That's what you are hired for. And I am a very strong negotiator, but I'm also fair. But at the end of the day, is it best for kids? It's going to be my question to every decision I make. And it'll be my decision, my question to you when we make decisions as a body and as a team. And it'll be something that I hope to instill in our staff and our community. What is best for kids? This is not personal. And I know as parents, we look at our kids, but we're gonna look at all kids and do what's best for every last one. So contract negotiations, I've been a teacher before, but we're gonna do what's best for kids. And I've successfully negotiated 2 contracts.
My question, what is your vision for a comprehensive professional development plan for our educators? What would be our priorities and delivery system?
Thank you, Mrs. Lancaster. After I answer that, I didn't answer a question. I want to make sure I circle back to it. So I'll answer yours first, and then I'll circle back on the, how will I handle staff who are a little, hasn't bought into the vision. As far as the plan, so that's a data dive by me and my team. There's not gonna be one person data dive. Now, let me be very clear. That's something I'm truly excited about doing. And again, we will look into the data and understand what we need to service our instructors so they can best service our students. So when I put a professional development plan together, it'll encompass what is our data telling? What trends are we showing in our data? Where are we falling short? Where are we really strong at? How are we bringing in new staff? Are we training them the right way? Are we training them the Jefferson schools way? Are we providing excellent education? Where are we falling short of this excellent education? What does the data tell us? Because data talks to us. My job is to get that data, let it talk to me and my team and present it to you. And if you notice, I'm never going to do things in a one-on-one. It'll be a team. So when we present it to you, that will feed into everybody being on board. So working with an understanding of where we are with our data, where our data is trending, how we need to move forward when we discuss training our staff, training, our auxiliary staff, and making sure that we're providing the best possible education for every kid. We will know, and we will prepare for the best professional development for our staff. And it's not always about money. I haven't been in the district, but I'm willing to bet you have enough staff experience who understand. But a lot of times we don't reach out to that experience and train and let them train. Train and train. All those things will be taken into account to understand how we move forward in this district. So professional development, we will progressively develop our staff every year. It's part of what we're supposed to do for my ISD as well. And we will lean on our ISD. Hey, these are the things we need based on our surveys, based on our evaluations, based on our trend data. Here's where we're falling short. Now that's where our ISDs come in. This is what I need. I need y'all to provide it. They get money for that. I'm aware of all that. And so I'm going to take advantage of that. I'm going to give our teachers what they need to be successful. You're welcome.
All right. For the last 20 years, our enrollment has steadily declined. What plan would you put together to build trust back from our community to choose Jefferson over a neighboring school?
As I explained before, prior to every district that I've worked in, every building that I've ran, our enrollment increased. I mentioned that Harperwood School for 1,400, and it is documented 1,400. They were when I left 3,000. 2,300 bodies And then we had another 700 in online supports, which is a financial win for the district. So how do we do that? I mentioned prior to, we talk to people. We send surveys out. I know a lot of people don't like filling them out. I don't want to be bothered with this. But then you still have to talk to people. Why did you send your child to this district and not Jefferson? And once you understand why, then we get busy and fix it. The second thing is, are we about excellence in education? See, if you got a great product, they will come. That's a fact. There's 27 years of experience, and you know, in your business, you got a great product, people will come. So we're gonna put on a great product. We're gonna teach every day, and our kids are gonna enjoy the experience at Jefferson. And when they walk away, they will walk away with pride and proud that I attended Jefferson schools. That's the goal. And to our parents, your child gonna be prepared for every direction they want to go. If they want to go to college, they want to take a trade, they want to do whatever they want to, they will be prepared academically, and they'll be ready to meet the world. What type of product are we putting on? Is my question. And then we're gonna look at what we do well, and we're gonna look at our weaknesses, and we're gonna build our weaknesses up, and we're gonna highlight our strengths. And we're gonna make sure that people want to be here. It's a tradition here. I'm aware. Because I like to talk. I'm aware. I talked to a colleague of mine, and they told me that district used to lead the ISDs, and they were proud to come down to this district and talk. Yeah, I got a lot of people I can talk to, and you have that type of reputation. Let's get it back and let's build on it. And as your leader and part of this team, we will get it back. So I will work tirelessly to get it back.
How would you confront resistance to change and the "we have always done it this way" attitude?
So, and that's kind of piggyback on the question that was previously asked by Mr. Foster. Part of meeting resistance to change is making sure that the people who are affected by the change are part of the change decision. So if I make a change in isolation, oh, this is what y'all gonna do. Well, I'm gonna automatically, someone's gonna automatically be resistant. Well, how would you know? Have you spent some time in the classroom? Have you spent some time in the community? But if I gather a team, teachers who have years of experience, teachers have minimal years of experience, administrators, and we talk as a team, and I empower them. So I'm glad to geek out again because it's about empowering people. Now, if we empower people when we decide to make changes, now it's not just me trying to make a change, it's we trying to make a change. Now you're talking, I'm resistant to the superintendent, but now he has all these people on his team and they're all pulling in the same direction. Why would I pull different? They must know something that I don't. And we incorporate them, bring everybody in, and we do it together as a team. It's not a job in isolation. It's a we job, not a me. So I can't go around pumping my chest, this is what I did. It's what we did. And so that change is difficult. Because that means, especially if you've been teaching for a long time, sometimes I've been doing it this way for a lot of years. But we know our kids change, the dynamics change. So let's get in, let's talk about those dynamics. It's communication. I meet resistance with communication. And the more I communicate, the least resistance I get. And then involve our staff. They're so knowledgeable. Who knows the kids better than the teachers? So resistance is futile when you communicate and you involve everybody.
Thanks. Okay, as our leader, what will be the most important priority with the board and staff of the district?
So, most important thing for me as an employee of the board is determine what goals have we set and agreed on in the first 90 days, in the first 6 months, and then at the end of the year. What are my goals? Because once we set those goals, and it's my job to meet those goals. And there's no excuses. With the staff, my biggest, my first thing I want to do is communicate to them. Here's where we are. Here's who I am. Listen, learn. Don't come in making changes. Just listen. I believe in listening to us. I believe in talking to the staff, sitting in classes, observing. My first 3 months, as you'll probably read in the plan, just listen. Understand from their lens what they're seeing. Talk to kids. That's the funnest part of the job. Talking to kids and talking to parents. That's the priority. Learn. I don't know Jefferson. By the time my first 3 months, I'm gonna learn a lot about it, and I'm gonna be able to share with the board. I'm gonna provide you a plan. Here's what I learned on my listening to it. And then we'll sit down and come up with some objectives. And what do you want me to accomplish? And I'm off and running. And I'm gonna meet with teachers. I'm gonna team up with them, and we're gonna have a plan, and we're gonna work the plan. Work the plan. Thank you.
What causes a school to become excellent?
I don't know if you guys are, but you asked a great question. And this is right up my wheelhouse. It's like softball toss because I believe in. So let me tell you why. I was talking to my wife about jurisprudence of excellence, and she said, "That's theory of law. Why would you say jurisprudence of excellence? But there's laws to being excellent." So when you set criteria, you set expectations, and you stand on those expectations, that's what will happen. Because this district should be excellent, it's everybody operating in that fashion of excellence. And we all pull it in the same direction of excellence. And so my little statement of jurisprudence of excellence is a theory of law of excellence. And I stole that, by the way. I get that from a Harvard class. But it is. It's learning to be excellent from everyone. And the expectation to be excellent. And once we are expected to be excellent every day, now, can we have days that aren't excellent? Of course. But if we put down the foundation of this is how we're going to operate, the district will be excellent.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
With the addition of the middle college at Jefferson High School next year, what plan would you bring to build our CTE courses like our construction trades course so we can compete with our neighboring schools?
So I don't know if you read it in my resume, and I'll actually talk about it. I also built a CTE program in Harper Woods, so they have culinary arts, they have design, clothing and a couple of other programs. I think they're making a small switch because there were more requests for different types of programs. And then they have a building program that's about to open up over there. So where the professionals come in and talk about how to build houses from scratch and things like that. And so in opening that up, it was an arduous journey, but it was very learning and telling. So I'm a big proponent of CTE classes and CTE programs. I do understand middle college. I'm very aware of it. I know how the program runs. I also opened up the IB program, which is a great attractor for students. So that's a little nugget for you guys. But I did open up a CTE program. It is online. You can open it up and look at it and take a look at the program. We purchased a building, a grocery store, had it renovated, used the millage money to renovate because it was our building now. We renovated and now it's a whole CTE program and it's outstanding. And kids come from far and wide to be a part of that program. So that's something that is near and dear to my heart.
Well, that concludes our questions.
Already?
Alright. We thank you for the conversation this evening. We've gotten to know you a lot better.
Okay.
Now we'll give you the opportunity to learn if you'd like to learn about us. We'll try to answer your question.
So first and foremost, before I ask questions, I want to thank everyone for having me and selecting me as a possible candidate for this great district. I want to thank staff and parents who came out to actually, at this late in the evening, to give me an opportunity to speak and get to know you guys. My question kind of evolve around spending time in the community. I'm about 30 miles away, which is easy drive for me. It's right up the street. When I was at Harper Woods, it's I think I was driving about 57 miles to get from my front door to the school. So this is actually an easy drive. And I'm just so fascinated by, on my drive in, I'm like enamored with the farming and communities around. And I just wanted to know about the community, about the people in the community. I can see the passion in a lot of the board members' faces and how the school means to them and this district means to them because you're volunteering your time. So my question to the board is, would you consider that same passion in the community as well?
Absolutely.
This community is a family that surrounds this district. So it's a curse and a blessing. Everyone knows everyone. It's just like a family. If something happens here, I'm liable to hear about it at Kroger before I hear about it from anyone else. So we're close. We all have a lot of pride in the district. We expect our next leader to have that same pride. I don't expect you to have it overnight, right? If you're not a Jefferson Bear, you're gonna be a Jefferson Bear. And it's not a learned thing. You gotta love it.
Experience, yes.
And that's what I'm looking for. I'm only one of 7, but community is important. And this community is supportive of this district in the good and the bad. So we have to support them.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say is, if you said you see it in our faces, which only shows you a very minimal amount compared to if you were to hear it from everybody in the community. I think most of us have grown up here. Our kids, a lot of our,
Except me.
like you said, 4 generations. There's a lot of us that have been here for forever. Yes, I'm the younger one on here, but
You have to point that out.
Yeah, I agree.
it's a very small community. Everyone knows each other. You know, there's a lot that people, if they don't know now, they're going to know. And that's nice. I like the small family feel of everybody. Everybody takes care of each other. And it's the same thing goes for our staff all the way down.
And I only ask, though I was born in Detroit, I was raised primarily in Mississippi, in Canton, this very small rural area. And again, everybody knows everybody named, and you don't see the Jacksons at church. We already knew what happened because it was already told to us on Saturday at our cookout. So it's familiar, and that's what was fascinating for me. I felt like I was back home in Mississippi with Big Mama, and it just felt familiar. And I was just so fascinated, and I really wanted to know that because I haven't had a chance. I know they had a festival coming up recently, and I don't know if we missed it, but we were. I know my sons and I were going to come down and participate. I have 2 kids. I'm sorry, three boys. One is an adult with 2 kids, so I have 2 grandbabies, 2 beautiful grandbabies. I have 2 teenagers at home. One's at CC and one's on his way to Northville, both teenagers. And so those are my guys. We are, and my wife's a doctor of nurse practitioner. And so we are one unit. We are a unit. And she works 3 days a week. I don't know how she does it, but she works 3 days a week. And so we get a chance to spend a lot of time. And we like to do a lot of things. And we are really excited about Jefferson. We are really excited about Jefferson. Okay. And I thank you again for having me.
Anything else as a closing statement before we wrap up?
No, it's getting late. I want everybody to get a chance to get home and get some relaxation in. But I think this is a gem of an opportunity.
Thank you for joining us this evening, and we appreciate your interest in our school and the children that we serve. We expect to discuss these first round interviews right now after this interview is over. And we hope to identify 1 or more finalists and schedule some remaining interview dates after that.
Sounds fantastic. Thank you again for having me, and it was a pleasure meeting you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Safe drive home.
Yeah, I'm going to take the walk out to the street.
I understand.
Thank you.
Oh, that's right. Thanks so much.
Nice to have you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Matches are good.
For having me.
And my
Thank you for that. I need that.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There's a little like, peachy tone.
So if you want to give a quick break and I don't know if you want to share with folks what you got to do, but.
Yeah, I'll just get this last line.
Do you want?
Oh, we've got one last.
Y'all have a great day.
Yeah,
Great day.
safe travels.
Don't stay too late.
We're gonna try.
One last time for the audience, we appreciate any suggested follow-up questions you'd like to recommend for this candidate. Please fill out the form and hand them to Mr. Haynes at this time. Questions? We're gonna take about a 5 to 10 minute break and then we'll start with the board deliberating these candidates.
You said 5 to 10.
5 to 10, I don't know how fast we're on. 5 to 10.
Race to the restroom.
Yep. We'll take 10 rounds.
Thank you. Run out.
Remember, they can hear us.
Like,
Everybody can hear us on TV. Everybody can hear us.
Yes. Does he? Yeah.
I just got some last week.
Yeah.
That's right. No, so, yeah, but I felt that. No, I think so. That's a big learning. Yep.
No, I'm good, thank you.
Chips and salsa. Guacamole. Pita and ballerina. I'm hungry. Have you had ballerina? It's, so, it's roasted eggplant. It's smoky and delicious and has all kinds of spices. Usually you can get it at places where they make hummus.
Yeah.
I'm just a big fan.
Yeah. Well,
Oh, wow, it's already done.
yeah. Well, big ones.
Great, great.
We're supposed to be set aside for a second. So we're here.
We all agree.
I'm gonna disagree with you on that.
I'm gonna go ahead and,
Maybe a little bit.
disagree with you.
That's my locker part, locker time. I just got a, disturbing email.
Work does that. I know. Yeah.
So Michael came back.
They don't, they're not. Okay. I'll let her know. I appreciate it. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, she didn't do anything else, probably. Everything else, like, right, but- Yeah, that's for real, that's.
Swear to God, I can.
Thank you.
Have you seen me? I've been in
That's if they are, it really is.
All right, Jackie, go for it.
No disagreement.
There's no, whoa, Jackie, now.
I would never attempt to do that.
I know you would. That's why I'm telling
I don't,
What?
I'll prefer to hang back in the corner and
Yeah.
make quiet decisions.
Well, they said, once you start. Yeah. Just not exactly. Yeah, oh, no. That's what they. No. Yeah, it timed out. Yeah, and it really wasn't. But two words, usually something inside of that. Oh, so it wasn't like. I know, I think too, and then now.
Is that you, Jackie?
Me with my car horn right here.
You listen. No, she's got a different. These. Okay, I thought it was me.
I have a question. See it.
Yeah.
You said you
Yes.
This will be his preference. I was looking for you. I'm right here.
Hey.
Just one quick question.
You didn't hear anything. Yes, yeah, let's go. It's my people.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's plan, or it's plan for you. If it gets real late, I've got a place to correct it. Don't start having.
I'm not listening to you.
Yes, unless it's the kids.
No, those things are really cat. My friend put me a video, just like a really huge fat cat.
You have a cat.
No, my friend sent me a video.
Okay.
Oh, I saw it. It should be, right.
That's absolutely, it should be. If it went well, it's hard.
Let's go.
You never hear me say that. I'm gonna turn the floor over.
Okay, so, it's kind of, my role is you're gonna see kind of wears off here pretty soon, because I don't get a vote in where you go next, but I can give you process advice. And I think I promised you / warned you early on when we first met that if I did my job well, the process would be uncomplicated. You'd see what was coming and it would flow naturally, but the decisions would be very hard. And I think you're kind of there. I think you've had some quality interviews. That's just my opinion. Here's my advice. 2 things. I really think you do need to get to a decision fairly quickly. There are boards who decide it's getting too late, we're gonna have to reconvene to deliberate on our candidates. But all deliberation has to be done in open session. And I will tell you, it's very difficult, given the public nature of these interviews. You're gonna wanna talk about it, you're gonna wanna start processing it. So if you go away from here tonight, think you're gonna come back, it's gonna get real messy. My advice is stay till you get it done tonight. And I do think you need to narrow your pool. Here's why. Your candidates are paying attention to what you do next. If they see that you're not able to narrow the pool, they'll read that as the board is not decisive. Or they can't reach consensus on how they feel about me as a candidate. So your candidates are gonna look to you for that. I would also tell you there's some risk. If you don't narrow the pool significantly, candidates decide, yeah, my chances aren't great. I don't want to be embarrassed by being in a pool and then still not getting it in the end. So sometimes they withdraw. If you wait too long, they withdraw. If you wait too long, they might take another position. I will tell you, fortunately, of the candidates you've interviewed, I can say without exception, in the conversations I've had with them, their first choice is this job here. But there are a couple of them who are being recruited and are being considered in other places. One, I'm pretty sure has got the job because I know has already had a second interview and the district is scheduling a site visit at that person's current district. That tells me they're getting ready to offer. So that's the advice there. And my suggestion is you probably need to get it down to 2 or 3. And that might depend a little bit on who the 2 or 3 are. Again, if one of your 3 is pretty good chance going to take another job before you get a chance to hire them, you might lose one of your 3, and then you're down to 2. 2's not bad, but if you only pick 2 and one takes a job somewhere, are you going to feel forced into a decision? Because you haven't excluded anybody yet. You've interviewed 6. There were other potential applicants in that pool. You could end up going back into that pool at some point. I don't suspect that's where you think you need to be. I think you've seen good credentials. The second piece of advice, and this is about process, go back to your profile. Go back to those, specifically that list of characteristics you were looking for. These are the things that are going to tell us we've got to fit. And it can almost be a checklist for you. You can consider every one of the 6 you've looked at and how well do they hit those markers. Probably nobody is going to hit every one of those perfectly for you. They're human beings. These are people. But there are going to be some that rise to the top because they match more of those profile components than maybe other candidates. Okay. Well, that's my advice. Now, all the deliberation has to be an open session. My suggestion to you is start with where you saw a lot of matches, and maybe take a few minutes to read through your notes and look at that profile, and then you can just start chatting about, I noticed this about this person. They seem to match on this one really well. That's where I'd start.
Okay. I'll start. Judging by the profile, Mr. Whitman. He checks a lot of boxes. He's very well spoken. And what I really appreciated was his knowledge of finance. The next superintendent, in my opinion, needs to have a strong background in finance. I have some concerns on relatability. I'm just going by what my notes say. And something that concerned me was he referred to this as the end of his career. That's a concerning factor to me. Moving to another candidate, Amy G checked a lot of boxes. I like when she said she was a transparent leader. She's a resident of the district, which makes it nice. She's close. I have some concerns with experience as a superintendent. It's not there. Not to say that she wouldn't hit the ground running. I'm just saying it's not there right now. What really stands out with her to me is how she turned that school around in 1 year. They were going to close that school. And if you read through the references, you'll see that everything she said about that was true.
And she did it twice,
Right.
right?
And she did it again. So that's a strong point on that one. Anyone can jump in here anytime. They don't make a decision.
Keep going.
Keep going? Okay. On our internal candidate, Dr. Kaler, in such a short time with the district, she was well received. That speaks volumes to me, that she was able to turn her staff into a full support system so quickly. That's hard to do, especially a staff that has suffered like our staff has in the past. So that stands out to me. She's an internal. Some I won't call them red flags. I'll call them some concerns would be with the interview itself. I didn't feel like I got the answers I was looking for on a lot of questions. She has a vast history in education when it comes to, not anyone gets a PhD, right? But references were a concern to me because all of her references were district people. They were here. There was 3 of us. We only worked with her for 7 months. Like I said, it's been a great 7 months. I don't have complaints about her. But if I was in that position, I would think I would be seeing references from other places that she served at. Moving on to the next one, Dr. Catherine Cost checks a lot of boxes. And I'll address the elephant in the room. We wouldn't, I don't say we wouldn't, it would be very hard to sway that public perception of what happened in Wyandotte. I commend her for how she addressed that tonight. She hit it head on. She didn't try to shy away from it. I thought her explanation was, I liked it. But like I said, that's a tough one when it comes to the public. And our stakeholders are important in that space. We've got to do what's best for them as well. She seemed very sincere. And it's hard to be honest on those tough issues sometimes. You want to beat around the bush. She did a good job of getting it. To me, anyway.
I agree. Very strong.
She had the right answers. She had the answers that we would expect to hear. So I was definitely impressed by that.
A great depth of knowledge.
Yes.
I think the only concern that I would have with that is just similar to like you said about Mr. Whitman. Is she at the end of her career? Because she's already retired.
She's already retired.
And now interested to get back into it. So that's just one thing that I keep thinking of as well.
Sean Whitman, or Cian, you had mentioned the fact that he said that this was the end of his career. I didn't personally interpret it like that. That's my personal opinion. I interpret it as he wants this to be his last stop.
Right.
His last stop is here.
That's how I.
To finish his career here in education where his family is from. I interpreted it like that. I liked how he did his research. I really liked his
Yes.
research on our district.
Excellent.
Some numbers.
Amy G did her research on our district. They knew the ins and outs equally, I believe, on our rec center, the importance of it. Where our building trades were, they knew the intricacies of our district. And it's not just stuff you can Google. You have to look, you have to read.
Yeah. Families we've lost, the percentages of the course college when they graduate.
Documentation was on point with both of them. They did their homework. That's them are two things that I noticed that stood out personally with me the most is that how thorough they were on. And
One
they
and
took
two
the.
were very impressive.
The gentleman tonight, David Rowley, is a well-spoken. I felt everything he said was sincere. It was genuine. I do believe that he is a lifelong learner. I like that when you said that. That's putting students first. I can tell you he's going to do that. That's how I feel if he was in that position. I have a big fear that the learning curve for this district is going to be too big. I don't feel confident putting someone in that seat that doesn't have bargaining background.
I was just gonna mention.
Labor relations background.
Correct.
Relationship building is very important, but you need that background.
You gotta have that.
I don't feel he did his homework on our district as well. There was a lack of knowledge and there was a lot of missing pieces on our information. There was a lot of details that if you did your homework, the details are there. I just didn't feel like the preparation was there. It was kind of it was
Not that it's a good excuse or anything, but he's interviewed at
sure,
3 different
understood,
schools in our state.
understood.
And if you tried to get a date on all three, he's probably gonna get all mixed up.
I
But that's
don't
not-
wanna be the bridesmaid
but
either,
other-
you know, no
but other
disrespect to
candidates-
bridesmaids. I want people to be, I wanted the wow factor and I was hoping for it, you know, that's kind of where I was going with that.
Well, that was a little concerning as well, is just the difference between Kentucky and Michigan.
Yeah, it's a big
And
learning
is
curve.
that gonna be a delay on trying to get us moving in the right direction in
I
a
don't
decent
think
time
we put
frame?
a lot in the time for the learning curve, and that's my opinion. Dwayne Richardson, Dr. Dwayne Richardson. He has a lot of experience. I mean, he's trained superintendents in another state. That's
Shows passion. I like that. There's passion definitely in that.
I liked his answer to the ISD question. I felt like he was connected and understood what
He does understand.
what
Wayne
an
Reese,
ISD
not too
is.
many people know Wayne Reese.
He's the only candidate that mentioned goals.
Yes.
Goals are important, right? That's what boards do, we set goals. And out of all these candidates, he's the only candidate to mention that. What goals are you gonna set for me and I'm gonna hit it out of the park with? I like that.
Accountability, you mentioned accountability, so.
I don't mean this as a dig on him, but when I asked question number 7, which was, tell me a time when you make a different leadership decision, I didn't resonate with the answer. You have to be able to admit your faults sometimes. Like, there's gotta be a decision you made at some point in your career that
Absolutely.
you would do differently, and it's
I
not
thought the
just
same
taking
thing.
your
And that, to me, it didn't answer the question. It wasn't a
Right.
leadership
It was a
decision.
career.
It was a career.
It was a career
decision.
question.
I mean,
The CTE
We all
that he
have
built,
that.
that's wonderful.
That's groundbreaking. He's had talent. I mean, talk about it.
There's pros and cons to every single.
I agree.
There's
What
a
I like
couple
to do
that-
is take a little bit from each one of them and make it into one candidate.
Let's bring them all on board.
No.
Heidi, can we do that?
She's like, no.
I want to say one thing. We were talking about factor costs, and the elephant in the room that you mentioned was the tower thing. Now, I don't have the years that you do on the board, and everybody up here knows, and everybody out there knows that no one person makes that decision. She did not vote on that. She did not. She did not vote on that. I'm not defending her. I wasn't in the district. I am just saying them decisions are made by 7 people sitting at a desk.
she was the person, she was the neck to choke, she was the duck to fry. And she fried for it. I'm not saying that it was right, wrong, indifferent. A lot of people sent us out some pretty different emails and we heard them all and read them all. Anybody who knows how this goes, it's 7 people decide and the best 4 votes win. To fry somebody, I just think it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting.
I will say that, it's important to note that vote for that cell phone tower was a 7-0 decision.
Interesting.
It was a 7-0 decision.
Well, and there was
She
a
cried for it.
recommendation that she got. Many of them were from the board, and retired board members and stuff, and they all praised her.
Yeah, I thought she had all the answers, and I think you said that already, very, very well in the interview. And I think that was just the one thing that's hanging there, but.
She addressed it. She didn't run from it though.
Correct. And that was.
She addressed it.
just
She, there was questions that were asked and she ran right at it. She said, I just want to, yeah. I thought it was direct. I didn't feel.
Let's give credit where credit is due too, that all of us also made the choice of choosing her to come in. I mean, that's how our community is, guys. We're gonna give second, third chances. We're gonna give those approaches to everyone across the board, kids. And we've done it. We've already showed that example. So I just want to make sure that we're solid with our questions and making sure that
If it
we feel
If it matters,
comfortable.
I guess I could throw this, I had 2 Wyandotte employees call me today in her defense.
Does matter.
Good.
They swore by her. They said she's the greatest boss ever. Treat your employees very well.
I like that.
That's not how.
It's not helpful. is it?
I just, I think personally, what I've had the hardest time with this whole situation is reading comments. And, they say, don't ever read the comments.
Right.
And as a parent, I want to be involved in what's happening. And I have to remove myself from that. And being in this seat is, I didn't realize how easy it is to question someone's our decision-making, integrity and our love for the district. So I fear with a situation like this, because this is such a huge issue. The emails and calls and letters that we've received from Riverview, I fear that it will cause a backlash that we can't recover from.
That's a good point. You really think it'll be that bad?
I do.
You don't think we've gone through worse? I mean,
So-
this, I'm sorry, I mean, no, we're not trying to be disrespectful, but
Yeah,
we've gone through a lot.
but I feel like it compounds. And I feel like
I understand, I do, no, I do, it's like, seems to be a glutton for punishment.
sometimes I feel like it.
I get it.
Jackie, your perception is on point. I mean, I'm gonna be honest. Pete'll tell you right now, there's not a right decision we will make with this community. We are gonna get our butts fried, no matter how we look at it. We owe it to the kids, to the students, to make the best decision for the leadership. Who can we work with that stood out in the interview process? That's our biggest thing. Is there things that we're not gonna be able to get over as a district? Yeah, them are big. It stinks that you have a great candidate who has all of checks, literally experience. That was one of your first things that you said, Tom, experience.
Yeah.
Knowledge. Checked every box.
She's got a lot.
But then there's the elephant in the room.
and the district will never let it go. My personal opinion. 1 of 7, that's my opinion. The district will never let it go. She'll never get a fair chance. Period. Sorry to say it like that. I just trying to, we gotta be blunt.
Right.
It's the only way to do it. And I'm not trying to sway them. I'm just saying,
No,
that's my
that's
thought.
exact.
That's what
We
this is
could
for,
be-
my thought.
Like Amy said, though, we could be those folks who give that second chance.
That's what I was just about to say, the same thing too.
Listen, one thing I noticed, and I've done a lot of interviews, guys, I really have, is when you notice when each interviewer pretty much had some of the same answers. They're all pretty much the same in generality. I was looking for specific responses that were kind of out of the box, kind of,
Yeah.
help me decide, okay, who's going a little further than, because again, you gotta admit, some of the answers were the same across the board.
Well, the gentleman yesterday talked about the early adapters and the fence setters. and
Yeah. It must
She
be
said
what
the
they,
exact same thing.
So,
it must be what they learned.
You read the same book.
Amy
That's what
Amy
they
said it
told
the
you?
first day, first interview, and then it got repeated.
Yes.
It must have went to MIL or MLI.
Some individuals were writing questions down. Some, it all goes to, how we were taught. And so,
It's actually written for language from professional learning communities at work.
right out of the book.
I knew it was good.
Yeah. There you go.
I'm really stuck between 3 for sure, to be honest.
I could definitely put this list of 3 people.
Agreed.
I've
Are they the
I've
same?
got 4, but I can knock it down to 3.
Are they the same 3 people though, gentlemen?
That's gonna be.
Yeah, yeah.
So, 2 of them, I think, we're all fairly sure on, at least I'm getting that vibe.
You should say names.
So,
We're all family here. You don't want to, we're all family.
sorry, Amy and, Cian, they were very good.
I will agree with you.
I agree.
Just to throw it out one more time on cost. Okay, do you all really think it's gonna be that bad of a thing, even though, I mean, if we showed, the board made that decision, not her. I mean,
But perception is reality.
that's
You know?
what I'm worried about.
And we already have, that's already happening already in our process. If you look at, and I don't know if you get on Facebook, but
Not
there
that
was
much.
already it was an immediate write-off. This person did this thing and they're,
Okay, but then we just have to ask ourselves, what's best for our
agreed,
students?
agreed.
Is it worth that? Because they're gonna be affected if there's a backlash too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'd like to express a little concern about Cian. Again, I thought he came in professional, extremely professional. My first thought is how's he gonna handle some of our tough teachers? How's he gonna handle some of our tough staff? And I'm being open about this. I'm looking for someone that's capable of handling these challenges without, asking for help. So, I don't know if anyone's see the same.
He came across to me as pretty stout, but
Okay.
Well,
that's
I'll
just
just
my opinion.
refer to this, reference sheet, that he's known for holding his staff accountable with very high expectations. So I think he's able to.
Well, I'm not only him, I'm gonna apply it to just about everybody else. So, not more to think about it. It's probably across the board. We need a strong leader that's capable of.
We have a tough staff, bunch of beach rats, man.
I get that. I get that.
Bunch of beach rats. They come in.
Said with love.
With, oh, of course, I have the badge myself. I was gonna say, we wear that badge. If I had to give you my, from my background in my regular daily job, I would tell you that my professional opinion is that Amy G would be the quickest relationship builder out of these candidates.
Agreed.
I think she's gonna come through and hit the ground running when it comes to building relationships. I think the slowest out of this list would be, out of the top would be, C. I don't think the relationships building is there. I don't see it like some of you have, I think, saw it. I don't see it. But he's got a lot of other qualities that
Everyone shines. Sure. The lack of experience with Amy in the superintendent seat concerns me.
No, that is the only thing that didn't concern me about her. I did have one other thing that, now, the elephant in the room, guys, we're talking about a cell phone tower. We talked about it. How about perception is reality on our district? We hire somebody whose kids don't even know that are, you know, I don't, am I legal to say that? I don't know.
That can't be a factor.
It can't, but what is reality gonna say in the district when you're talking to a family from Monroe and go, this person doesn't even send their kids to your school, why should I send my kids to your school? I'm sorry, it's here, I'm sorry, that's my thought. That's how I have.
I was,
Spit it out.
well, the high schooler, obviously, if they transfer. schools,
No, doesn't, I wouldn't
that's a
expect
different-
that.
Yeah, but the younger ones I heard could possibly come.
That's a great idea, but, you know.
It can't be a requirement.
But it can't
It's not a requirement. You didn't say it was. I said it's a
But
concern.
on the other
of mine.
hand, the other two candidates don't even have kids that are school age, so it's not like we're.
The conversation would be just as bad as a cell phone conversation.
It would, it's a definitely
Conversation
in my head.
all I can say. I'm just trying to put facts on the table. How we process them from there is, that's how we process them.
What's
It's
the
not a
difference?
big
Here's
number.
my one question. I know this is gonna sound interesting, but what is the difference for any staff member?
Agreed. That's what came
Well,
into
there
my
is a
head.
difference.
There's a huge difference.
There's
You're
a
leader
leader
of your district,
I understand that,
150%.
but every person in this district is a leader.
Oh,
So I'm
The
just,
Zinga.
I'm just
It's
saying.
not.
Can I have a suggestion?
Please.
Again, I'm just gonna interject for a second. While you cannot ask a candidate if they'll enroll their children, you could ask a candidate why they haven't, when they had the opportunity.
Great, good to know.
There might be-
You
there
could
might be
say-
something to
It's
it.
a school choice question. You've chosen not to enroll your children, and why is that?
I'm just saying, I'm putting out things that we all need to know.
That's what I want.
Two of my daughters came here and the other one we sent to the Catholic school. Just because of the discipline, because she was getting in the wrong crowd. And it worked. Her grades improved. The nuns were hitting her with a ruler.
You know?
And
Bring back parochial school.
I understand what you're saying, and I think you're hitting it. I get it. But you also have to remember that one person is just part of a family unit. It's
100%.
not just their decision to send their kid. If they have a spouse that, you know, maybe, what if the spouse worked at the other district? You know what I mean? I'm not saying that that's the case. I'm just saying there's always factor. It's a family decision. So you have to take that. into
So here's, and my other thought is to that. My other thought to that is we have to do what's right for kids. You gotta look at it. And you know what? If that was their thought to choose to enroll their kids there and they thought that was right, we can't hold that against them.
And I like that we could ask that.
Yeah, no, and,
That question. I didn't say I would.
but I like the question, like you said, is ask that question.
Help us understand why that would
Yeah,
be your choice.
absolutely.
If she's a finalist, we could address it.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would, yep.
I think
Legally,
legally,
of course.
to narrow it down. Do you have any more debate? I mean, I can narrow it to 3 that I have. I don't know if they're gonna be the same 3.
Yeah.
I would like to add that, Ms. Cost is our most experienced candidate. Just keep that in mind.
She is.
I agree.
She is. I don't know if
I don't know if
experience.
it's worth
Yeah, the most experience is not always the best choice. I mean, my opinion, but
Right.
definitely worth.
Yeah,
She got my
Just a consideration.
She got my
And
3.
checking the boxes for financials and for special education, and I mean, just really the depth and breadth of what she has done and experienced. If nothing else, if there was no elephant, if there was no cell phone tower, I would really want her to lead my kid's district.
That says a lot.
It says a lot.
Yeah, sure does.
I really have a lot of respect for her and the answers that she gave as an educator.
Okay, so I'm gonna,
And please tell Ron, she's from my dad, I believe.
well, she said.
Oh, did I say Riverview? Oh,
You both.
So I'm gonna tell you what
Why
my
not?
three are.
Okay.
I'll start and then we can just, maybe they match, maybe they don't, and we go from there.
Oh,
So, my three candidates would be ADG, Cian Whitman, and Catherine Cost.
Shane is the same,
You are the same?
the exact same.
I'm also the same.
I'm the same as well.
So that's, and, Shane,
Tell you the truth, it would only be two, but threes.
okay. Corey,
Help the old guy with the hearing loss. Did you say Amy, Sean, and Dr.
Catherine
Cost?
Cost, yes.
I'm in agreement.
I am also in agreement. Oh, no, we're stressing Iggy out.
I'm telling you, I like the Kentucky guy, I ain't gonna lie to you, but, and I like the passion from Dr. Richardson,
Oh,
so.
yeah, he was.
But,
They're both strong.
Both commendable, yeah.
I don't, yeah, we had a great.
I get it. I gotta be honest with you, I like Cost, whatever reason, she just stuck out to me, so actually, I'm okay with that. And yeah, no, I'm okay, across the board, I'll agree.
We're in agreement. So with this agreement, you think we want to offer second round interviews to three candidates?
Absolutely.
Agreed.
Yes.
Okay. That was a lot. That's harder than I thought it was gonna be.
It's pretty.
I think it's forgetting when you said you wanted
Starting.
to have candidates, let 30 now.
No.
Thank you.
So do I need to take a
You
motion?
should take action on that, and what you're gonna do is ask me to schedule interviews. And the 16th and 17th, I'll try and figure out how to do.
Thank you.
Did you, and was there interest in a site visit? I will tell you, I heard it from the focus groups that they thought that might be meaningful.
Site
They'd
visit?
like a chance.
To go there?
No, have them come here and actually do some
Absolutely.
tours, but
But that's
then
another
like
spot.
an unstructured open house, staff, community members can come and meet them and engage. Give them feedback on,
I think that would be incredibly beneficial.
And that may also help on the ones, on anybody who may be shy in talking with people,
Yes, agreed.
see the interaction.
so I can begin to work on, Karen and I will work on setting up interviews for the 16th and 17th. Probably gonna do two on one day and one on the other day, and I'll find a way to structure them so they're not bumping into each other, so we'll fewer in the same time.
So my motion should be to offer second interview to those three candidates. Just let me write this down so I don't keep it up.
And direct me to schedule.
I'm writing
Okay,
Excellent.
excellent.
and it's hard.
This is gonna be super hard. But that question about why did you do that? That's very good. Came up.
I was asked that. I was also, sometimes I was doing as well, and I think it's the horizon view, not the straight on view. Perception is reality. We always live by that almost on this board, remember? Perception, what do you perceive and you believe? I don't compare that position to you personally. I know you did. You said.
Oh,
with, but
yeah, no, I
our
understand.
other teachers.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't compare
Of
them. It's
course.
different worlds in my mind.
I understand.
And that's my opinion. I'm gonna stick with it.
Yes.
Public comment, I support it.
When I first started on.
I was gonna ask you to take action.
A bonus or something additional.
So, which I just showed this motion,
I
so
still love that idea.
does it make sense?
I still think the motion I mean, can we look
can.
at something? I love it.
And you can.
Yeah, you can because it's still a
You've
discussion.
already carved those dates out.
That's a lot of money.
that's probably the kind of 160.
Yeah.
It's a great idea. I think we should be very much go.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
And then not let up on it.
Yeah.
All right, you know, that can be the difference.
All right, board ready? Okay. I need a motion to offer second round interviews to Amy G, Dr. C. Whitman, Dr. Catherine Cost, and to direct Peter Haynes to schedule interviews on April 16th and 17th.
So moved.
Board McLaughlin, supported by Mr. Breyer. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Peter, you've been directed. Moving on in the agenda to oral communication citizen.
I have none that have been turned in.
Okay. And then comments from the board. Anyone?
No, thank you guys for sitting through 2 days. Listen, it's huge. And we see the looks, we see the happies, the sads,
Your face is
the blanks and the mads. We see it. Trust me, we see it. This is not easy decision, not easy seats to sit in. And
I hope you all took the opportunity to fill out some questions for us to ask in the second round interviews. And I do appreciate all of you being here this long with us. And I appreciate everyone watching at home.
Viewers
Sometimes-
on YouTube.
Right. Sometimes the best decision isn't always the easiest decision, so.
Oh, it's usually not.
it's not the popular one either.
Any other,
I just want to thank everybody for coming out too and sticking with it for 2 days. I really want to thank Pete, you're
Yes,
some
thank
great
you.
candidates.
Thank you.
This has not been easy. Warn you.
I just,
anybody else?
yeah, just one more thing, is
Go ahead.
just thank you to central office, I mean, you're here, you're here in the day as well, and teachers definitely as well, so I mean,
Yeah.
appreciate it,
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks, Karen.
long day.
I'll bring in a Starbucks stand coffee next time.
With all that, motion to move the special board meeting to be adjourned.
So moved.
Motion.
Support.
Mrs. Langham, supported by who? Any discussion?
Yeah, I'd like to debrief everything that tonight.
Hearing none,
He's staying.
hearing none, all in favor?
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. We are adjourned
9:55.
at 9:55.
Wow, you guys, I did not think that we would be leaving this early.